Debbie, you could get started anytime.
Okay. Let's call the meeting together at 6:06 p.m. And next item on the agenda, Dina, can you do the roll call?
Yes, I'm not sharing my screen, right? Does anyone see what I'm looking at?
No, we can't see anything. It just says the pros,
Okay. I wanted to just double check where I'm at. Okay, I'm going to do roll call at.
Dina, we can't see you either, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Here I am. All right, we have Jill Giordano.
Here.
Melinda Tan,
here.
Rachel Tittle. She was here earlier. Let me just double check the participants and see if she's hiding in there.
I think she's here, but we can't hear her.
Okay, I see a 641 number. It might be her.
Can you hear me?
Come back. Oh, there you are.
Hello. I figured it out.
All right, Christina Costable,
Here.
Kate McCormick,
Here.
Terry Whitaker,
Here.
David Weingarten,
Here.
Debbie Yates,
Here.
and we know that Trustee Ryan is also on the call.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is agenda approval. And what we would like to do, same agenda, but in order to accommodate Josh and John, we kind of like them to move them up in the agenda. Do we need to vote on that, Dina, or can we just move in forward on the agenda? Or do you want me to go with the regular agenda? The regular times? You're muted. Dina, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. It's a rocky start, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and Kevin, do you guys usually vote on changing just the order of the agenda?
We do, but for this, it's not necessary.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
Are they
so
going to know if we start early? Dina?
They do know, yes.
Okay.
okay. Okay, so we will do a slight tweak on the agenda just so we can move the two artist presentations up a little bit. Next item on the agenda is the public comment. And we had a question for Leslie because we're doing the Ormond Roche Trailhead art and a couple other proposals. We didn't know if they needed to do public comment now or if they can do public comment after we present the proposals. So I'm assuming Leslie is out there somewhere. Did we find an answer to that for public
You know,
comment?
Leslie is actually having trouble logging in as well. So Kevin, maybe do you have an answer?
Yeah, we could do both or either. And not actually, my preference would be not to do both, but if someone would like to make a public comment now and go and enjoy their dinner with their family, they could do that. If they'd like to make a public comment after, just make sure you raise your hand. This is obviously a pretty informal process. And so we're fine to do it later. I actually have a public comment unrelated though.
Okay,
to any of
so Kevin, why don't you go ahead and start public comment and then we'll see if there's anyone else who would like to do public comment now. And then we can also open it up when they raise their hands after the proposals. We also have a couple emails that will come in for public comment. I'm assuming, Dina, when we get to Ormond Roche, is that okay for them to be read? I think Terry has them too, so.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Kevin,
My
you wanna
public,
go ahead?
just thanks guys. My comment, and please don't read anything into this. There is a practice from a couple members in the community to do a freedom of information request or an open records request on all emails that go to some members of the board. And I get a lot of open record requests that for emails to either come from me or go to me. You guys are kind enough to copy me on all these emails that I'm part of the CAPS distribution, which I really love. But occasionally there's some just personal chatter that is going between this very informal committee. And I just wanted to remind you all that sometimes that personal chatter in the wrong hands might be interpreted a little differently. So just be aware of that in the future, whether or not I'm on the board or not. Our emails on the CAPS distribution list are of course public record, and there is a practice within the town of Superior to actually, people are actually out there and interested in what we say. So just the level of, I love the level of casualness and friendliness that the email strikes, but if somebody, you guys know where I'm going, so just be a little cautious on it. And I'm not picking on anybody or any particular email. I just don't want to address a problem in a month or 2 months from now, assuming I'm on the board. I thought I'd just remind everybody today. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin, would you, in procedures and policies with the other advisory committees, do they also have an email stream that includes their staff liaison, their board liaison?
It does, but you guys are about 100 times the email volume of anybody else. So, which is just is what it is, right?
Well, we have so many subcommittees, and I think there's a lot more communication, basically.
Right.
But
And you guys are right, and y'all are 100 times better than any other committee. So that's the other reason.
but good suggestion. We'll make sure that we read it as if there's some anonymous person out there reading it. So, Dina, is there any other public comment that you can see anybody who logged in?
There's Leslie. Let's move her up to panelist. And then after Leslie, I just have the 641 phone number as an attendee, and I believe that's Rachel.
Okay, so no one else has raised their hand for public comment?
Right, there does not appear to be any public on the call.
Okay,
And just for transparency, I have Karen Snortland, our committee coordinator, on text, and we're trying to figure out if there's a problem with the public login link at the moment. So I will keep an eye out on the attendee list in case someone later on logs in, and then we can determine if we need to open public comment again.
okay. All right,
I
sounds
did
good.
I just got a text from a member of the public. She can't get in. So there is a problem, Dina.
Okay, so
So if you could-
Karen,
I mean, these things happen. So just ask staff to, thanks.
okay, thank you.
Okay. And Kevin, did the person who just texted in for public comment, did that person happen to say, was it related to a specific topic? So we know to make sure we include them?
It's Daryl, guys. I mean, I don't know. She
Okay.
just, so.
Well, what we'd be happy to do is we'll keep working on it. And then as soon as we can get the public side fixed, Kevin, maybe you could text her back and say it's fixed.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, next item on the agenda is we would actually like to welcome Kate McKinnick. Dina, Terry, and I talked to Kate yesterday and kind of introduced ourselves to her. So welcome, Kate. And if you'd like to give like a short introduction, that would be great.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kate. I am currently in college for zoology. I've been a lover of art my whole life. More as just a casual hobby, but as I've gotten more and more into it and I've been able to kind of take classes on it, I think my appreciation for art has grown. And I am also a part-time adoption specialist at the Humane Society of Boulder Valley. So I'm just involved in a bunch of different things, and I'm really excited to be a part of this lovely group.
Thanks, Kate. We are excited you're part of it. We have an amazing team, and a huge thank you to everyone on the CAPS committee because they have visited parks and met with artists and looked through a ton of art and really participated. So we really appreciate everybody on the committee and appreciate you joining us. One of the other things that we kind of tweaked that will help people when they, thinking about coming on the committee, we still have one opening, is the website for CAPS, which is under the Town of Superior. Dina went in and kind of tweaked it somewhat. And the great part about the addition to the website for the CAPS Cultural Arts and Public Spaces is there's a discussion about placemaking. And I think that was informative to those people out in the public who'd like to kind of know what we keep talking about when it comes to placemaking. So check out the new website. All right. We are going to move in the agenda down to item 6A under old business, which is the master plan public art for the Ormond Roche Trailhead. And I know that Dina has been organizing the two artist proposals, which she's going to coordinate. And I see Josh down there. And Terry, do you want to take over kind of a super brief preview of what you have done for all this to get this in place? And then we can look at the art and talk to the artists.
Well, we had a committee that was made up of members of CAPS and OSAC and a couple of others, OSAC and
ProStack.
ProStack, thank you. And we basically put out the RFP, or Dina put out the RFP, and we got a number of responses. And we narrowed it down to the two people that we have now, Josh and John Davis. And we asked them to provide a proposal to us, and that's what they're going to talk about tonight. And then we will have some discussions and make a decision. So who is going first? Is it John or is it Josh?
Is alphabetical, so it will be John Davis.
Okay.
And I believe John is on.
Hello.
John, can we see and hear you? There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Hi, John. Thanks for joining us. And I
Hi,
will
Dina.
share the screen and start your presentation. Ready, set, go.
Okay, great. I guess you've all seen this, so I can probably run through this fairly quickly, and then we can address questions if that makes sense after. First off, I just want to thank you for inviting me to take part in your process of identifying some artwork for this special site that you have here. And my approach to creating public art is to design artwork with relevance to the site. So for this site, it occurred to me that there were two really important aspects to the design development, and that's the human history of the site and the natural environment of the site. Those form what I see as the context for the trailhead location. And this cover slide that I have here, I think kind of illustrates the sort of the two key aspects to my process. We can go on to this next slide now, slide 2. I have these 3 slides. So having in mind the history of Superior and the importance of the industrial coal mine, I wanted to know what was the relationship between the trailhead location and the mine location. Try to identify that as closely as possible. And so you can see on this first slide, I've just highlighted the Coal Creek ditch. I don't know if your screen you can see that, but the little dog leg in that ditch surrounds the trailhead location. We can go on to the next slide. And this is, as indicated, is a survey plat, an image of a survey plat that I found that locates the ditch within the survey. And we can see in the southeast quadrant of section 24 is where that dog leg in the Coal Creek ditch is, and the trailhead sits right in the kind of the center of that dog leg. So we have that much that we feel pretty good about. We can go to the next slide, and we can see this is an underground layout of the mine, and it lays predominantly in the southeast quadrant of section 24 again. So we can see locating the trailhead like we did before, that the trailhead lies right on top of the mine. So I felt like with that knowledge, I really would want to incorporate a reference to what was going on in the earth below the site where you're standing at the trailhead. And so we can go to the next slide. And with that in mind, this is an image actually from the industrial mine and a coal cart being loaded. And I just thought the coal cart would be a really strong icon or reference to the mining history there. And so how can I weave that into an artwork intelligently? So we can go on then to the next slide, sort of a front view, maybe view from more or less from the parking lot. So we have these two kind of intersecting arcs that form like a gateway or archway feature opening up to the landscape beyond. And these two arcs together form an archway, but each one of them speaks to one of the aspects of the site that I had mentioned. One speaks to the human history, the other one speaks to the natural environment. We can go on to the next slide. Has a couple of different views here. The coal cart is kind of obvious. They are elevated up on one segment of the one arch. The opposing arch then has these stems penetrating up through it. They're intended to reference the prairie grass, foothill grass, like the buffalo grass or grama grass that is indigenous to the area, and the way they kind of penetrate and extend up through the arch kind of touches on the aspect of underground and what's underground and what's above ground. So here we are with the just kind of the approximate overall dimensions. We're looking at Cor-Ten steel for the most part of it. The stems themselves would be fluoropolymer coated steel, and the taller stem has a wind vane on it. The wind vane is not going to go spinning around wildly. It just kind of rotates as the wind direction changes. And I've done a few of these before, and they're pretty amazing. They will, when you think there's just a breeze blowing, it will move and it will change, because even a light breeze is never really consistently in the same direction. So it will have motion, but it's not going to have frenetic motion. It's just going to align itself with the wind. And so we can go on to the site plan view of this, and I would just propose a circular area of crusher fines at the base to kind of separate it from the site. And then here you have just kind of, you can see it in that little triangle beyond the parking lot. On to the next. I got a few images from my portfolio just to give you a reference for materials. In this case, this is Cor-Ten steel, a piece that I did for a community center here in Albuquerque. Next one, apparatus for manufacturing memories of a pulp mill. This is in a park in Westland, Oregon. And it's actually at a trailhead too. The trail goes along the Willamette River, and you can go down to the mill where these grindstones came from. Those big gray cylindrical elements are salvage grindstones from the pulp mill. And then in the corner inset there, you can see the local historical society then came along afterwards and did some nice interpretive panels, creating another layer of relevance for the piece as it connects with the mill where those stones came from. One more slide, and I think we're pretty much there. Next. Couple of references, pieces that I did with wind vanes, and the one on the left is at at a school in Warden, Washington, and trying to connect to aspects of the school and the agricultural community there. The one on the right is at a project, flood control project in Tucson. So both successful, I think, uses of a wind vane within the piece. Happy to take questions.
I have a question. So the windmills, you know, we get really, really strong windmills here. Will they be durable enough to hold up to those winds?
Yeah, those, in fact, the piece on the left, I was just finishing up construction. This was the one in Warden, Washington there. And they had a huge wind event just as I was kind of wrapping up, cleaning up. The whole piece had been installed. And, you know, I mean, it was a pretty huge wind event, blowing sheets of plywood across the parking lot and all kinds of stuff. And it just, the wind vane just kind of shifts to the direction of the wind. It's not anything crazy. It doesn't matter whether it's 10 miles an hour or 50 miles an hour. It's just going to line itself up with the wind. So there's no, it can be intense winds. And I have the one in Tucson has been successfully working for, I think, 8 years now without any problems. If you're concerned about maintenance, there's a couple of different approaches we can use for the bearing assembly. If you're open to incorporating wind in the piece, we can do it without creating problems.
Thank you.
Sure.
This is probably a very stupid question, but I missed the first part of this, sorry. And it looks really solid, but I'm assuming we're going to have probably, we have some bored teenagers in our neighborhood right now, probably globally. Is it strong enough to handle, you know, hooligans jumping on it?
Yes, it's, you know, these projects are all evaluated by a structural engineer, and they do calculations based on how many hooligans per square feet sitting on top of it at one time. And I haven't had any problems with people climbing on things. And I have to admit that one of my first major public art projects was in the skate park in Denver. And talk about hooligans, that's ground zero. And piece is still standing.
And then I'm just covering all the bases because we have had a terrible problem with graffiti here recently. So, I mean, if someone does graffiti how do we get it off? How do we clean it?
There are various graffiti removals, you know, compounds that you can use. And with the Core 10, you would use, and I would include maintenance instructions, which would have the names of these products. But for the most part, these graffiti removers are pretty effective in taking it off. And with the Core 10, you don't have to fuss with the surface. That's just a natural rusted surface. And these products will work really well with the painted stems there as well. That they clean up really well.
Okay,
I
thank
add
you.
to considering John's pieces in the Denver skate park, lots of graffiti. It's been added and removed hundreds of times. I don't know, John, when did you install that?
That was 07.
Oh yeah, years ago. So I'm confident in his answer, if you want to know my opinion.
Any other questions?
Generally, my general experience is, other than the skate park, which is, you know, just kind of an aside on the skate park, when I was constructing it, I suggested to the city that we just put scaffold around it and let the skateboarders go at it with rattle cans. And just, you know, that will be the finish for it. And the city they couldn't see clear to condoning that. They, you know, and so they're out there every morning, power washing and painting over the graffiti, you know, throughout the whole park. So that is their mission in life. I really, you know, everybody says graffiti, but my experience is generally it's not as bad as they fear it will be.
Okay, any other questions that you have for John?
Question before we go any farther, and then we could do further discussion after we've heard both people, is what kind of time situation are we in installing this? I mean, how long will it take?
I'm not sure what your expectation is. You want it in, say, by next summer? Is that kind of what you were thinking, or?
I'm not sure that we specifically have a deadline, but you know, I was wondering, like, if it would take from start to finish once the contract is in place to installation. Is that going to be 2 months, 6 months, a year?
It should be less than a year, I think, or, you know, ballpark 6 months.
Okay, I'm not going to hold you to that, but it gives us an idea anyway. Okay,
Sure.
thank you. All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your proposal, and it's an interesting piece. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay. All right, the next person that we have to present is Josh Weiner. Josh is a local, and so he is very familiar with our site. And Josh, take it away.
Hello. I am delighted to be considered for this space. It's certainly one of my favorite places to be and spend time, and it's something that I do regularly. To go out to Mayoff Singletree is often my loop, you know, doing the big loop, starting at Marshall Mesa and looping around. I can bike there from my house, and I love it. So it's really an honor to explore it and be considered for this project. And so, if possible, if I could share my screen, I'd love to take you through my approach and my thoughts with it. Let's see. Okay.
Yes, there you go. Sorry, Josh, I got overexcited to open your PowerPoint, so it's all yours now.
Okay. So I love this space. I feel like I've spent so much time here. My son's been practicing at El Dorado Middle School over the last few months, basketball. And so I've been going out there daily, multiple times a week. And so it's given me this opportunity to really study the space. And so I've been out there, you know, tons of times with, at sunrise, at sunset. I've been really observing how people inhabit this space, watching how the smoke rolls past it and clears up. And so I've really been drawn to a site just next to McCaslin. And I'm drawn to this space because I feel like the view from there is just, it's stunning. It'll sit up on the ridge. And so you'll be looking through it from the street, and it'll be striking from downtown. You'll be able to see this whole composition from downtown. And so in spending time there, one of the things I was really struck by is that people for lunch and for sunrises and sunsets, they would come and just sit in their car and look at this view, look at this immense expanse of nature. And so I really was moved by that visual from that space. And so I struggled with introducing something there. While I felt like it's a logical location for artwork in relation to this fantastic, addition to this access to this trailhead. I also felt like the periphery, which I'm most excited about to work on, is actually just a little bit further outside. And so what I was thinking, and really being moved, I felt like this rolling ring was laced into the town logo, this sense of movement, the sense of activity, the sense of expansive view really inspired the artwork in a lot of ways. And so the idea is that up on this ridge, and you could see down below, you could see the roundabout with the artwork, and you could see it when you exit 36. This hillside is just, it's so part of the downtown experience that I felt like by bringing it out and introducing these series of rings rolling down the hill, and this curving, playful path, that we could activate the view and really start to play with the whole idea of the art paths, the idea of the art paths in the public art master plan. I thought was a brilliant idea of how to move through Superior and experience art. And ideally, that it connects you to nature, it connects you to your environment. And so the sight lines through these pieces, I think, really start to connect your location in it. And so by having this series of rings moving down this hill, it really will activate it. It'll make it feel like there's something exciting going on. There's movement through the space. The pieces will be built in a way where the foundation completely disappears. It'll be completely integrated into the environment. So it really inhabits the space. And then the path, I loved it. I thought that from a distance, you'd see this playful path, almost like the way you see the roller coasters in Denver, that there's this, it animates the whole view. And so I think that from that view, as you're entering the downtown, you would have this gesture of the path, of this fantastic network of paths that distinguish Superior. And so for the last, 7-8 years since I've been a really avid cyclist, I bike this all the time, and I watch things bloom, and I watch the winter, and I know when the moisture is at the right level where I could be out. And so I've really explored this space heavily because I could ride it all winter long. But with this opportunity, I went and really explored, like, where's Superior going, and which I've been doing because my folks are actually considering moving there. My studio's in Boulder, and I share it with my mom, who's also a sculptor. And so she's been, this is kind of a logical transition from where they're at. They've been exploring a bunch of different units. But one of the things that I found, so this is McCaslin coming down, is there's this amazing playful trail that goes currently to nowhere, but they're building this whole area out. And so this is going to be a major corridor to access this expanse of this trail system, right? So this whole area is all open, and I think it zigzags like here, it comes back through here. And so you've got this massive trail system. But what I discovered is right over the hill, which totally blew my mind, was Purple Park, which is just stunning. And all the water features and the paths that carry you through here. So I explored the whole thing, and you could just see there's this fantastic network of trails. And so I really felt like the trail distinguishes Superior, the ability to inhabit this space. When you get down here, there's all these trails that the mountain bike community has built that's just stunning, coming off 128. There's a whole series of trails that create this world-class biking destination. And so I really was moved by the sense of movement. I felt like it's evocative of physicality and play. And I think that the materials suggest a sense of the roots for the history of the site and movement of coal that's taken place, but in a poetic way. And so let me see, I've got a couple videos. I think that what really happens, you'll see that these rings, as you move, will move across the landscape. By separating them out, they will then become animated by the audience moving. So then you become part of the artwork, which I think is a really powerful way to connect you to the landscape and also connect you to the artwork. And so I did another one that kind of weaves through, and I really like the idea that the path that would carry you through, and the path is part of my budget. The path is part of the artwork, and I felt like it was a really lovely extension of the art, that the art is becoming the path. The art is how you inhabit the landscape. And so let's go back here, and so you can see that the way they sit on this ridge, and I just superimpose this over a picture, and so it's actually looking down on it, but I want to show how the path moves, but really it'll sit on the horizon. And I thought it would be a great visual to highlight. They'll be up in the sky and then crossing across the Flatirons. I think it'll be a really striking composition. All of my work is site specific. I feel like this hill, while I generated that line, I think there's a ton of room. This is that hill that I was talking about putting it on, and there's this ridge that will become a horizon line. And I felt like that would be a great line for the rings to pass down. But I think there's room to really draw the audience, to draw people to walking through this space. Currently, the entrance, if you're coming up the hill, you have to pass the paved entrance, and then there's a sidewalk. But I felt like something that invites you onto the landscape. Just below here, there's also another path that will carry you back to the Mayoff Singletree. So there's the labyrinth of trails there, I think is just stunning. And to be able to introduce something there, I thought was really exciting. I think there's other places we could do it, right? So just behind that entrance, just behind the parking lot, there's the most powerful tree in this, in a 10 almost square mile area is right there. And it's in this valley. And so I thought there's room to play there. And there's also, down the Mayoff Singletree Trail. So there's the parking lot. I thought there was places that we could play with it there. I was really drawn to participate with Superior. I read through your master plan. I know that you've got great vision. I'm currently renting a space in Boulder, and I would love to move my studio here and be involved with Superior. And I know that has nothing to do with this, but I would love to participate with you at a really high level and explore new relationships with development of public art. And so I hope that by demonstrating something in this, in this space, that we could accomplish something really exciting and ideally expand upon it. I really think that the ring will inhabit the space elegantly. It'll animate the space. I think that it's something that would really be an exciting landmark. And I was just going to kind of jump through a couple pieces. If you guys had questions, feel free to jump in. I just wanted to illustrate my use of materials to give a sense for how things connect to the landscape. You know, I'm really drawn to motion. Everything I do is structurally engineered to withstand hurricanes and earthquakes and everything else. Every piece I do is site specific, so it would have its own character.
I did have a question about the rings. It was hard to tell from the renderings. Is it just going to be basically a circle, or did I detect kind of a slant or like a wave to the circle? Does that make sense, so that it has more movement? I'm not sure. I don't have the right vocabulary to describe it, but
It is a circle.
okay. So
A
it's just a
perfect
solid circle. Okay. Oh, I see the other pictures. Yeah. I love that you, I mean, really researched the site and opened up some other potential placement of the rings, and that you are open to different placements. So, and then the title, "This Must Be the Place," is just so, it's so great. I'm wondering if, you know, how we could do signage around that. And then my concern, of course, is that you showed people in the middle of the ring. So clearly they're going to be stable enough to have people in it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's 1/2 inch. It's totally stout. I've worked with material like this before, where, let's see, you could see back there, that's a similar profile. And
Okay.
it's so stout. People could climb on it. I'll make it totally, I'll round all my corners. So it's something that will it'd be totally safe to, if somebody did climb on it or walk through it, that it's designed for public space.
Okay. And how many rings were there total? Was that 6? 5? 5. Okay. Thank you.
Melinda actually asked one of my questions, and it was when when Josh was showing the movie, it looked like the rings almost had, you're right, like kind of waves or edges or something on it, but since that is not the case. And my next question, Josh, did you comment or say that part of the budget in the sculpture is that cool trail?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
That
so
the great pavers, the crunch pavers were
I don't
part
know
of
if, let's see, if you, where is it?
the budget for it.
Yeah, so, and we had discussed kind of how we could approach doing the budget if we did partner where some of the aspects of the structure was integrated and city participated with it, it would be less money. But if I do everything, which I typically do, it would be the full budget. All of my projects are done on time, within budget. I never ask for more money. I know you're on a delicate place trying to introduce art, and the success of the budget and the timing is very key. And so, I mean, I would love the idea that it gets integrated in a way that that expands the project. That I think I've budgeted for 150 feet in a straight line of trail with these 5 objects laced in. They all have foundations. Yeah, I think that.
Okay, yeah, just because part of what we do discuss is how to integrate the paths. And so I just wanted to make sure that path that you showed in the pictures was somehow included, or somebody was going to do that. So, yeah.
Yes. And so
Very cool. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
No,
I think the
thank you.
path from downtown is just going to be so striking. I think that to have something that lets you know that the trail is such an important aspect to inhabiting Superior, and there's so many ways between Single Tree and Meadowlark to Purple Park and all the way up, the more formal park settings. There's so many distinct experiences that you will have once you get on the path. And I really believe in that in my art and in my practice. I will never finalize a design without getting my heart rate raised and thinking about it and going out into nature, because the level of clarity that I get in that moment, it just, my sensitivity to my material and everything else is so much more heightened. And so this is just a rendering aspect. The why it looks faceted, it's just a limitation of the visualization tools that I have that make it look like it's fluted. It will be a perfect clean ring. And I really believe in the elegance of the radius.
And
Right.
so, oh, sorry, Debbie, were you?
No, I just want to make sure that we're kind of cognizant of time here.
Oh, okay. I
Okay.
just have one more question. So does this path connect to the parking lot? Because lots of people go to the parking lot for sunsets, right? So are they going to be able to say, oh, I'm going to go on the path, or I'm going to follow the ring trail, right? And along that vein, can bikers who are climbing up the trail going towards Key Bank, can they see that in the distance, and will access to it be through the parking lot? Or do they have to go back down the hill to where that tree is that you mentioned?
So I would love to see it. I think this is a great spot where it could connect. You can see this is the parking lot currently. And right now people climb the hill and then turn into the parking lot there. So I would like to connect to the trail here and then also up here. But I think that there's room to have this go further down and really carry you all the way down to that new neighborhood that's being developed right there. There's another entrance right there. So I think that this could be opened up in a number of ways. I really like the idea of the bright white crusher fines. And there's other places in the trail system that you could see it, but something that would be striking from a distance, that you would be able to see it from down in town. But I think the key is that you would enter right now, the way I've budgeted for the creation of this, you would enter from the sidewalk.
Okay.
About 150 feet from the parking lot. And then I think from the trail system, you'll be able to see these rings. And I think it will be a draw to come out through the parking lot and see this whole space, because, really, as you climb that hill, you don't see downtown quite as much. You start to see it right at the top, but you make a turn. And so I think it would activate people that are passing Superior on that trail system. It would activate their curiosity to go maybe see Purple Park or that other trail that's across the way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Josh. This has been very interesting. We're going to have a tough decision. So thank you. Do we have any public comment other than the 3 emails that we're going to share?
That's
Dina?
a good Dina question. Terry, why don't you go ahead and read the 3 emails that we have?
Okay. All right. The first one is from Jennifer Kosh. She says, Dina, thank you so much for the opportunity to view the submissions and comment on them. They are both amazing. Also, thank you to the artists for their time and efforts in this submission process. I found it difficult to choose, which means they are both great submissions. Ultimately, my preference is the Josh Wiener proposal. While the Davis proposal feeds the history enthusiast, I envision the Wiener proposal being a more publicly engaged art piece. The rings would be located in a place that passersby can see from their cars, and I can imagine this spot becoming a bit of a social media check-in for locals and trail enthusiasts. It looks playful and memorable, and will also make a great location descriptor. I am personally excited to ride my bike on the trail that weaves between the art piece if it is selected. Thank you. Second letter was from Holly Richardson. She said, Dina, thank you for sharing these proposals for the Ormond Roche Trailhead. Very interesting and exciting. I would recommend the John Davis Artworks proposal. That sculpture feels more thematic to and consistent with other public art installations around Superior, and its placement is more desirable to me than the trail featured of the other proposal. Many thanks. And the last one came from Lawrence Dorsey. Dina, on a personal level, I really like the Davis proposal. Not speaking for the commission, thanks for sending my way. Did this go at all to the Historical Commission? Larry. Okay.
Okay, Dina, do we have any public comment?
Lost her.
We lost Dina. There she is.
If you would
She's
like
there.
to, if there's anyone online that would like to have public comment, please raise your hand.
While
And if you
Dina's
don't-
waiting,
I believe if you don't know how to raise your hand, you can click on your profile and there's a hand available. Okay. Debbie?
well, no, I was gonna say while we're waiting to see if anybody has public comment on it, why don't we go ahead and have a CAPS committee discussion? Thoughts, opinions?
Just quick for those, since we're having some technical difficulty, let's just make sure that we're set, because I think people dialed in. Anybody in the public that wants to make a public comment, you could text me and then I'll figure it out. 720-989-5336. I'll say it again. 720-989-5336. Shoot me a text and let me know you're trying to make public comment, and then we'll figure it out. But I agree, nobody's got their hand raised, so hopefully it's not a technical issue. Thanks.
Awesome, thanks, Kevin. Okay. Thoughts from those of you on the committee. I know we have two amazing pieces of art. And both of these, by the way, will go before the Board of Trustees. They would like, understandably so, some input on this, since it is truly going to be a visual signature of what people see, in Superior. So that and the Colton are going before the Board of Trustees on December 14th. So let's have some thoughts on what you guys see about this.
I'll make some comments. For the second one that we saw, the rings, I think I was kind of 50-50 on the placement. I loved that you could see it from McCaslin. I loved that it draws your eye towards that view, which is fantastic. The only thing I was just a little bit kind of questioned that location was because it was so close to our other sculpture, that it was kind of like sculpture, and then nothing. And so I was a little torn on that, but I do like that you can also see it from McCaslin. So I think I'm 50-50 on the location of it. I did like that it was a little bit more modern. I liked that they definitely lent themselves for people to interact with them, because they were only as high as the normal person. Makes them a little bit more approachable, and I really liked the path. My only question would be would Superior and or Boulder County let us make another path? Is that included with the installation? Anyway, that was my only question. The second one, I loved that he found out that it was on top of a mine, the mine. I just thought it was a little kitschy, the actual coal mine thing, and so that I didn't quite like that as much. But I did like the obviously the reference to it. I really liked that the rings didn't have so much. I'm done.
I had only one thought. I mean, I love them both, but my one thought is in the proposal requests that we wanted some place that actually, and I couldn't quite get a visual on what that would look like. We wanted some piece of sculpture where you could take like selfies, and it really was like a signature place. And I'm not sure that the 5 rings would be someplace that would be so iconic that you would take selfie pictures on it. That was, I guess, really my only thought on what might be a criteria for the sculpture.
I was gonna go if no one else was gonna. So for Davis's piece, I love obviously the frame and the ring concept. I thought the theme was a little disjointed. That actually wasn't my favorite, having the coal carts and then the wheat. And even though I do love the attention given to the historical significance of the trail, but as CAPS members, we know that we are in the process of moving the coal carts, the potential for moving coal carts. And so if those are moved to a more prominent space, then I wouldn't want to coal carts within potentially a half mile of each other. So, I mean, that's kind of our nod to history. As far as the selfie component that Debbie mentioned, I kind of disagree a little bit. I think that the rings would actually be a destination, especially if you can see a few of them from McCaslin. But as Jill mentioned, I'm wondering if we could move or we could work with the artist to move the rings ever so slightly, so at least one of the rings was at the trailhead. I think that was important to OSAC or Prozac or her. But I do think the rings would be a destination, and if they were moved up the hill a little bit, I think, as Jill mentioned too, it wouldn't be as close to the other to Triptych. So those are my thoughts. But I do love the rings.
So I'll make a comment now, if that's okay. I also thought they were both very wonderful pieces and a lot of thought put into them. I did like the movement idea. I live off this trail, so I'm also on it just all the time. One thing about the trailhead location, I think that is a really nice place, but I'm of the mind to not block the view at all. So I kind of like that the circles are pulled more towards the street. And I do think, I like how I think you can also go in it and do handstands and stuff. So I think the selfie part actually would be easier to do, but I'm just hesitant with blocking the view because I feel like that's one of my favorite parts. But I think the circles fit well with all the things that Joshua mentioned for that space.
Okay, I'm sure each of you has an opinion. Okay, David, you're going.
Yeah, I think that I think I'm more inclined for Josh's pieces as well. I think for a variety of reasons, I really like how it's connected to the art path potentially, and the movement aspect. I don't necessarily think that they're very given that they're circles and they're fairly thin, I don't necessarily think that they're going to be blocking the view. I think it would kind of add to that area as well, which will be really pretty. And while I loved, I'm sorry, I forgot the gentleman's name, Davis. I loved his pieces. I also thought the coal cart was a little off for me. And but otherwise, I like what he came up with the exception of that.
Okay, Rachel. Rachel, do you want Kate to go next?
I might have her on mute. Let me just double check.
Oh, because yeah, I was gonna say, Rachel's giving this look like.
I think her voice is on the attendee side.
Well, Kate, why don't you go?
Okay.
Kate, why don't you go ahead?
I really enjoyed both of them. I agree on the whole minecart. Wasn't a huge fan of that. The one thing that would concern me with the rings is since the trail doesn't, completely connect to them, then are we encouraging people to kind of go off the trail and go on to that grass that we otherwise might want them to like avoid and stay on trail? That would be my one concern with that. Would just be kind of sort of trampling the natural grasses there. But other than that, I think I do prefer Joshua's sculpture.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Rachel, are you on yet? Can you come on
Can you
yet?
hear me? Can you hear me?
There you are.
Yes.
All right. I know I could control air traffic. So I really like both of them. I love the research that went into the first one. I think that's really interesting. I do love the rings. I think they're small enough that they could kind of blend, but also draw people up into that area, because I've talked to a lot of people that have completely missed that trail's even there, which is sort of nice, but it's an amazing view. So that might be one reason to keep some of the larger artwork kind of away from the top of the trailhead. I was a little hesitant because when I thought about putting art right there, like I can see that space all the time. So I was like, what would that look like? But I do think it would be something like I could say to my friends who have kids, like, let's meet by the rings. And it would be very easy to go there and hang out and play, and they could explore. So I like that part about it.
Thanks, Rachel. Terry?
Well, I think we can't go wrong with either one. But I think I'm probably falling into the same with most of the other members of this committee, in that I like the movement of the rings. Placement, I mean, we may have to check on that to see whether or not that is something that we can actually do, or if it has to be approved through the Boulder Open Space. I don't know about that. Joshua's is the one that hit me first, but I also do like Mr. Davis's piece as well.
Okay, thanks, Terry. What other comments? Any thoughts? I guess my only thought was we've had numerous discussions about not being or not choosing to ride your bike down McCaslin. So where he's put them close to McCaslin, I had a little bit of a harder time looking at the visual depth of where they were next to McCaslin and what they were tied to. So I don't know if once we check with Boulder Open Space, and I know Terry, you walked the trail at the top. So you and Dina, if we put one at the top by the parking lot where the trailhead bends right there, how Boulder Open Space felt about that. I kind of have a feeling, Dina, that the town of Superior owns along McCaslin there. Do you think that maybe, and maybe Leslie would know that too. I don't think that would be an issue, a placement along McCaslin.
Yeah, Leslie looked into it. She may be able to come off mute, but she did text me when I asked her. She said it appears it's town property, but we're not sure about the slope, so we could definitely look into that.
Okay.
Yeah, my only,
Leslie, do you have anything else you want to share about that?
I guess my only thoughts are that it makes the project a little bit more involved, bringing a trail construction into it. Not that that should deter or influence your selection, but just knowing that the timeline, the cost, and the design of that, we'll have to have engineer drawings and those kind of things for a trail up that slope. So it might just be a little bit more complicated. We'll have to look into the details.
Well, Mr. Davis's piece, I think, was going to be on the open space, so we'd have to get approval from Boulder Open Space. So that would also involve some time, but not the architects and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm leaning towards the rings as well, but would love to maybe just explore the location a little bit. I do like the idea of perhaps slanting it slightly so it's maybe not just vertical on the slope on McCaslin, but somehow draws you into the trailhead or into the parking lot, but still has them integrated in a way that they draw your eye from McCaslin. But that might be easier to do because it's more along the parking lot. But
I totally agree with that.
What other comments, opinions? Any other thoughts that you may have comparing the two pieces of sculpture? And it's the really terrific thing about this is you had ProStack and OSAC that went through this whole process, literally starting out with what, 125 pieces of art. So you've taken it, that committee took it from 125 pieces of art down to 2, which is pretty amazing in the scope of things when you think about it, and 2 really good choices. So Dina, we don't really need a motion to vote on this, do we? Are you, committee members, are you ready to vote on it?
Yes,
For our recommendation to the Board of Trustees?
we do need a motion and a vote because it's a recommendation to the board. May I also add, you all had discussed earlier when you reviewed the sculptures available for purchase,
Right.
that you may want to send the top choice to the board for a sculpture available to purchase. Sorry, that's a tongue twister. So if just a reminder, if you wanted to discuss that again or not, that's fine too.
Is it easy for you, Dina, to just pull that up really quickly?
Sure. Just one moment.
Only if you have it right at your fingertips.
I do.
Otherwise, someone will need to make a motion.
Does anyone recall that application while I'm just pulling it up real quick?
I do. It was the wood guy
yeah.
that really truly underestimates how amazing it looked, but it was the
He's
wood.
from Washington State, I think.
Right. Yeah, and I'll pull that up just in case you wanted to chat a little bit before I do that.
Debbie, we could say this is our preference, but show all 3 pieces. Do we want to do that and let the?
Yes, it will be, just so you guys know, it will be a recommendation from the Cultural Arts and Public Spaces Committee to the Board of Trustees. All 3 choices will be presented to them, and they will ultimately make the final choice, just like they did with the triptych.
Sorry, I found his name and now I'm just looking for his application. That's right. You may have to log in for it, but what I'll do is just open it right now. It's Tom Benedict. And I'm going to share
He's
my
actually
screen.
showcasing that over in Louisville or Lafayette or something like that, isn't he?
Right. He will start an exhibition in Louisville in, here's the piece here. He'll start an exhibition in the spring, I believe. Sorry, when I click on it, it wants to go to the website. So I can't open it too big because it'll get too digitally pixelated, but at least this will remind you it's 2 Rocky Mountain juniper trees that are 128 inches tall, and it would be 2 on either side of some sort of gateway.
All right, thank you. And Dina, what was the artist's name again, in case anybody would like to go and just look up again and remind themselves?
Sure.
Again, this will be presented to the board, but
Tom Benedict. And he's
Tom
from
Benedict, okay.
Three Forks, Montana.
Oh, Montana. Okay.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion for a recommendation for the art?
Well, if no one's going to make one, I will. It seemed to me like the consensus was for the ring. So my motion is to have Josh Wiener's piece put forth to be considered for the Ormond Roche trailhead.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second. It's Melinda.
Okay, we've had our discussion unless there's anything else someone would like to add to that. Any discussion that you just kind of thought, oh my goodness, I'd like to mention that. Okay, so Dina, why don't you call for roll call on the motion to recommend the Joshua Wiener public art presentation. I can't remember what the name of it is. It should be in the motion, actually.
Is it This Must Be the Place?
Yes, this must be the place. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Danny, can you do roll call?
Yes, we'll start with Jill Giordano,
Yes.
Melinda Tan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
sorry, McCormick, Christina Costable,
Yes.
Rachel Tittle.
Yes.
Sorry, I have to look at the list here. Did I do Melinda?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
You've
David.
got David and me.
Yes.
Terry Whitaker
Yes.
and Debbie Yates.
No.
Okay, that is 6, 7 for, and 1 against.
Okay, motion passed, and we'll put that together for the recommendation for the Board of Trustees on December 14th. All right, sounds good. Item 6B on the agenda is under the master plan, public art, and this is for the temporary art exhibits. And given the fact that it is about 7:15, we're about 20 minutes behind schedule. I don't want you to feel rushed at all, but we don't want to be here till midnight either. So Christina, would you kind of like to give a summary of meeting the 2 different artists? And we will need to vote on one of their proposals. So take it over, Christina.
Thanks. Dina, do you want to pull them up and I'll just briefly, thanks. So we have 2 artists, Colin Parson, which hopefully you guys can recall. He has 3 already made sculptures that we would rent. And these are the 3 sculptures. We spoke with him. He actually spoke with us about the underpass too, but that was something he just doesn't have time to create a piece for any sites for the fall. The timeline is just too short. But yeah, if anybody has any discussion about these pieces, should we discuss anything, or should I just plow through?
Could do,
Where was he going to put these?
we could do discussion. So a couple things here. They're obviously open to placement ideas. Nobody knows Superior like you guys. So their suggestion is to place the 3 sculptures where it's a gateway. And because they are quite large and iconic. So there are, a few ideas floating around in my head, and you guys may have some as well, but I think that we have enough time to logistically work it out with them. This sculpture is obviously very large. I could see it going on either side of a pathway. This one is big enough and has not been painted yet that we can help him pick the color if we felt like it, but you can also see that it is an opening to a gateway. This one's big enough that a pedestrian and a bicycle could ride under. This one is more meant for a grassy or open space area that you could see how it's installed just by stakes in the grass, or it could be tall grass. So each one would serve as a gateway. It could be, for example, helpful for our art path planning to start thinking about gateways. It could be helpful for trying to introduce people to the parks 1 and 2 over near the path near where parks 1 and 2 will be. So there are lots of locations we could put these. Certainly we could put them further south in Superior and put them near the walking paths at Wildflower Park. Each one of these could be placed somewhere near Wildflower Park where there's a lot of pedestrians. So there's lots of opportunity.
Do we know how durable this pink one is? Because that looks like a climbing gym.
It does.
And it's cool, but I think kids will be very attracted to wanting to play on that.
Especially if it's at Wildflower Park.
Well, I think that's a great question here. I know that I saw some pictures early on when he was, you know, he and I were going back and forth about logistics. I was hoping to see what kind of gauge metal he was planning to use, but you can be sure that a lot of these sculptures that are going to be in the public and from artists who have been placing art in the public have used the teenager theory in building their engineering, that teenagers can climb on these things without killing themselves, which is the first goal, or damaging the artwork. Certainly it's something we can talk to them about if you have more questions about it. For example, if you decide to wait on this project and do it later, we can have more time for questions and logistics and working with them on placement.
Were we picking one of these 3 or all 3 are available within our budget?
They all come together for our budget, and they've also worked out a budget strategy that will enable us to have a little funding left over from the 15,000 so that we could do any site prep work and any additional installation costs that they can't foresee. So we have a bit of a cushion, which is great.
I could see drawing attention to the new pickleball courts with one of these.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you could think of them as a group where they might be seen together or separate. And so that, you know, that's a great point. Maybe one fits near the pickleball and the entrance gateway, and one fits down near Wildflower Park, or, I mean, I could name any park really, but certainly you could spread them out throughout the town.
Well, one of the things we'd also talked about, since there are 3 of them as a group, that when you look at the art path under the master plan, one of the suggestions was to have almost like experimental art and have people kind of give opinions on them also. Oh, I really like this. No, I don't like this at all. But because these are 3 pieces for, well, his cost in the budget is $10,500. But that might enable us to put 3 pieces along the path. And of course, once we get into our small project funding, we also have a couple, as the team knows, that would also work as path art. So kind of keep that in mind if we move it over to spring to be along with the art path.
I do like that idea of kind of using it as a tester, you know, to dip our toe into the waters of public feedback, you know, for where the trail would be. As far as placement goes, Dina, is the Coal Creek Trail going to be under construction? Like, is placing something there not even in the conceivable, like for the next year?
Well, from what I understand, and Leslie can chime in here too, is that anything that is a certain distance from the current concrete pathway that's on the north side of the Coal Creek path from Town Hall to where the new bridge will be, and actually all the way further down to the underpass that we share with Louisville, that is controlled by the flood district. So what we would need to do is find a spot along that path that we have purview over. So for example, we could go when the bridge gets built. So Leslie, you might have a better idea of the bridge construction timing. But when the bridge gets built over in this area, and I'll open that up really quick here.
Well, and
So
Dina,
the
we
bridge
also
is
have-
going to go from here to here. So, you know, anywhere along this path is owned by the floodway district.
But only
but
20
we s-
feet.
Right, but certainly we could put something up here. We could put something over here. We could put something on this side. So this is an interesting area. Like this could have a sculpture here on this intersection, even a little bit further on this intersection where there's a bridge right here. So this area could entertain something.
Dina, do you have the picture of, actually I sent a picture over to Rachel when she was doing the art path. I know that Leslie shared with us what Parks 1 and 2 were going to look like, and it showed you that 20 feet of the Metro Flood Retention Government Entity.
I have that handy if you want to look at that as you're discussing. I can find it and open it.
I mean, I don't know that it makes a difference because we need to choose one or the other tonight so that we can move forward to get it installed.
So
Any
oh, I just have one other one, that it's going to start getting really cold. And so while people might see these in passing, I think there might be less foot traffic going into the winter. So that's just, I don't know, something that occurred to me.
Okay, Christine, any other thoughts on the Colin Parsons grouping, basically?
No, I think those were all good comments. Maybe we can move on to the other option, that we're choosing between. And that's elevation lighting, elevation holiday lighting, right? Mike is his name.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly, if you would like, I can quickly show you this map. So here's the map here. And so everything in this dotted line here and in this dotted line is owned by the floodway. So we would have to put anything we would like on the opposite side, this green side, which is developed, and this southern side, which is not developed yet.
And then with these, with the placement of these sculptures, does that include a sign? So everyone would know that it's temporary and the artist's name and maybe information, or?
No, a lot of these projects don't include signage, so we'll have to do that out of, you know, a different pocket of money, if you will.
Okay.
Thanks, Dina.
Sure.
For pulling up the Parks 1 and 2. Okay. Mike
Okay.
and his lighting.
Yep. So this is elevation lighting. We went on a site visit with Mike into several different locations, and we kind of narrowed it down to 2 at first, and then it was narrowed down to 1, I believe, which was Grasso, where he wrote up this proposal for, because he thought it was the most intimate space and that we would get the most bang for our buck for this, for the amount that we have. So there's 9, or the apple trees, like twisty apple trees that are in Grasso Park there. And it has a really nice atmosphere if you haven't ever been there. And that's kind of what he wanted to work with and integrate music and the light show, which I'm not sure really how to describe that, but maybe if someone knows how to describe. I guess the lights they're RGB, I believe. And so they're programmed with the music, so they kind of interact with the music, and different lights go along with it in different colors.
Actually, it's
Sorry,
interesting
there's a
because
commercial really quick. Hold on a second.
yeah.
So this gives you an idea of how their programmable LED lights work.
Is there
And-
sound that goes with the word or the lights?
Yes, I believe he's suggesting 3 programs.
Oh yeah, I meant with the video we're watching. I'm just curious how
with the
how
video,
it goes together.
I don't think so. I mean,
That's okay.
I unmuted my computer, but I I don't hear any sound. I don't think anyone else might hear sound either, but
There was actually, and because this was kind of hard for me to get a feeling of what it would look like, because this is obviously not trees. He was talking about the 3 different color schemes and 3 different music themes. But if you go on the Twinkly Pro, there are videos of trees that have been wrapped with these, what are they called, Dina? Special lights?
well, his lights are smart programmable lights is what he described them as here.
Yeah.
They're synced
Right.
with the music, real-time music visualizer. So he's suggesting 3 programs, and of course, he's willing to work with us on the titles and the colors, but one would be the Winter Blues, showing a blue color palette, and jazz music, maybe it's classic blues and jazz. The next one would be Look on the Bright Side with a rainbow palette, and then a classic holiday with classic holiday songs. So the idea here is to install in December and probably deinstall sometime at the end of April-ish. We haven't, talked about those details, and certainly your input would be welcome on that. And the idea would be to have something up through the whole winter season and not just holidays, because the town is doing holiday lights all over town. And we don't need to compete with that or really match up with that. But the goal here is for us to have an extended period where we have this activity for people to do all winter.
So can I make a comment? Okay.
Sure.
I love the trees there, but I was kind of hoping that he would have maybe given another option. I know at one point, especially with the draping lights, where you can really manipulate kind of images a little bit, like when you saw in the buildings and there was like circles kind of like blooming out and things like that. Whereas I can't so much picture it on skinny trees, how that you'd get that effect. But I know there are the buildings there that he mentioned at one point. So I was kind of hoping he'd maybe like mention something about the buildings, but that was my only, because around the trees, I'm not sure if it's just going to look so similar to the holiday lighting.
Actually, it's interesting. I had somewhat of the same thought, because we had talked about when we met with Mike on the side of a building or something. So incorporating, a few of the trees, but then going down and having the reindeer on that one wall with whatever. If you go in and look at the stuff that he's done, it's stupendous. And the idea was someplace that people could gather. You'd bring your kids and they could sit there and listen to the music, and they would have this visual display of all the programmable lights. Someplace, it's maybe like a big thing in Chicago where you go out and you see the really civic light, basically events. We'd also talked about, Dina has some of her event planning budget left, depending on COVID, of course, but maybe even allow people to get, 20 people or 10 people, whatever, they can get tickets for having hot chocolate and the Monarch a cappella or something like that. That would be at Grosso Park to encourage a very small gathering type of thing. And again, this would only be like 10 people type thing, but something to bring in maybe more of a festive feel to it.
I thought we talked about the possibility of maybe even getting the chamber to help with part of this.
Right. I haven't talked to them.
I think we discussed this about the lights, but if you've been here at night, the two lamps that are there are kind of like a.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys froze up. I didn't. Was someone else talking?
Oh, I was just mentioning about the lights, and then real quick, but these are really like fluorescent and bright. Was that something that we could turn off, or is that then a safety issue? I forget. I know we discussed that, but.
I think that was a question we were going to ask our parks operations staff, and Leslie's on. She may know before we ask that question, but I do recall that Mike said often when they do lighting near main streets, often their lights overpower the main street lights. So they don't experience having to turn the main street lights off very often.
I was wondering about the timing. Is this, so it's December to March. So I just was wondering how we're gonna make it seem totally separate from like just holiday lighting.
I think with the event, perhaps, and I think the holiday lighting goes up way before December. So
It's like November or something.
There'd be a
Okay.
delay.
The holiday lights will go up. Oh gosh, I had that memorized for the meeting. Leslie, do you remember? Is it December, the first week of December?
No, I think they're up Monday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's probably the first week of December, and then they come down the second week of January.
Right.
So then ours would stay up, and then ours would change color. So ours turn from the holiday color into the next, which is either rainbow or winter blues. Probably winter blues makes sense first, or go second after the, after holiday. And then the rainbow, which, his creative title for the rainbow is Look on the Bright Side. So that's maybe when spring starts to come.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I just wish we had a video or something. Like I'm having a hard time envisioning it. And I know he had one on his phone, but we didn't have internet or something. I couldn't see it when we were there.
Well, I think that's what this video is. It shows us how the lights work. And,
Okay.
It's very simple. It's wrapped trees. It's wrapped. All these trees get wrapped. And then they get programmed into the colors. So, it's a simple design because we have a pretty low budget. As you recall, he's working on a project in Breckenridge where they're doing a 1 mile walk installation of lights, and that's a $50,000 project. So, these lights here are on the trees in this video. You could like
There
those
you
right
go.
there. You
Yeah,
could
that
imagine,
was the one that shows it.
you could imagine this. I think that, we can't see exactly what he's thinking in some ways. With every creative proposal, there's some trust involved. And looking at their past work to make sure we're not getting had, right? So while we can't see exactly what they're going to do for us, that's a challenge of not having, a huge budget either. If we had a bigger budget, he could probably do a simulation of some sort for us.
Okay.
Just from my comment perspective, I feel like we've got the sculpture at the roundabout when you come in. We've got temporary at Purple Park, and we're gonna have the OR trailhead. That I'm kind of desperate for something different. So I would vote for the lights.
Yeah, that was my thought. Is I thought the point of the winter, one of the goals, I should say, of this winter installation is kind of bling and a draw, and we were really hoping for illumination because we want it to be fun and to stand out, and we wanted a destination.
And joyful.
Yeah,
Warm and
joyful.
fuzzy.
Right. And so I think if we, there is the risk that it is not going to stand on its own and people might think it's part of the town, but we can send out, Dina does amazing marketing, like this is a CAPS event. And especially if we are in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, I think that will kind of help that. I do love the sculptures, but I don't think it's going to be the bang for our buck for this temporary installation. And as much as I want to start that art path, I think it's probably a little premature in the winter just to plop something down with no illumination. And anyway, that's what.
Yeah, I think Colin could be done at a later date, maybe when the art path openings and it's the gateway to
Right.
every path or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like his pieces for that. Yeah.
I like the light pieces as well. I do have a concern though that I'd like to kind of air is that, especially if Breckenridge for a mile's worth of lights is 50,000, how is 6 trees 15? I mean, is that something it seems like a little outrageous, to be honest.
I thought Breckenridge was like 200,000.
Oh,
No,
I thought
it's
somebody
not.
said 50.
It's 50.
Okay, well, I don't quote me.
Yeah, and I haven't seen what the mile-long stretch includes. But what I do know is sometimes these things are projects of scale. So for
Right.
example, for us, if we're doing a tiny little prairie dog sculpture, takes just as much work with an artist and the design and the process as a $30,000 sculpture. The price doesn't matter. It's the amount of tasks and meetings and coordination and site prep. No matter what the size is, sometimes it's a matter of scale.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, like
not
with
being the vendor, but I'm
right.
not the vendor arguing either way, but that's my
I'm
point.
sure that there's some programmable things that need to be worked on, but they have the lights and I don't know how much it costs to string lights within a town, but to me, it just seems a little high on the price. But I do like,
We did
I do
find
like
out.
the concept.
Yeah, I like the concept. I like it's bright, it's set to music, people can gather there. You can actually see it from McCaslin when the trees are off, when the leaves are off the tree. And it will be 10 trees, by the way. So not that that makes a difference with the 6, but we did ask Mike, and these RGB lights, the programmable ones, are 5 times more expensive than LED lights that elevations would use maybe in other areas, for instance, or what the town uses. So we were surprised how expensive these programmable lights are. But of course, that's what's giving you the music and the visual impact. So
they program each individual bulb,
right,
not like the strand of light. So they go
Right.
in and they do it on like each different color. They do a different light program that bulb.
Okay, any other comments before we make a motion to vote on one of these 2 fall installations? Because we really do need to get going here. Right, no other motion. I move to accept the sculpture exhibition, the elevation holiday lighting by Mike, whatever his last name is, for our fall temporary art project.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay. Dina, can you call roll call, please?
Right, let's go with Christina Costable,
Yes.
Jill Giordano,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Melinda,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear me?
that's
Yes.
unanimous. Oh, Terry, there you are.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to speak up, right?
Did we get them all?
That was everybody unanimous.
Okay, so great. So it passed unanimously, and Dina will reach out to Mike so he can get the structure of the lights. And I think we could probably pass on maybe some of the suggestions to him also. So
Do we want to let Colin know that we're interested in his things for when the art path is a little more together?
yes, I like that. Christina, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. All right, item 6C on the agenda. Dina, can you just give us a quick overview of the 2 final prairie dogs so we can vote on which one of those to choose?
Sure, and I had thought that maybe we could get these guys on for a quick call with them, but I also knew we were going to be short on time, so I did not, in the end, get them on a call with us. So I think just a quick introduction is the group, the subcommittee suggested we do a sound artist. And so I did some digging and I found 2 sound artists that were interested in the project. And those are the proposals that you were sent previously.
Okay, are you gonna, do we need to pull them up or can you pull them up?
Sure, I can open them right now. So first I have Ben Coleman. Here it is. All right, does anyone have any, is there somewhere someone would like to start, or did everyone get a chance to review this?
Mhm. They were both interesting.
Debbie, you're muted.
No, this is not the one. This is not the baseball guy. Okay.
So we're open for comments, right?
Right, right.
This was my favorite. I think a lot of thought was put into it. I like the learning aspect again with the different sounds, and it's interesting that he talked about how the prairie dog's seeing things, because I never really thought about that. But yeah, that's my thought.
I like that the sounds would be recorded from Superior Sounds.
And was it just me or were we not able to pull up what the sounds would be? I know he described it, but so since he's doing them custom sounds, there are no sounds. Is that correct?
There were examples that I thought
Oh,
were there,
okay.
but I couldn't get them to open.
I couldn't
Let's see
either.
if I can
Yeah.
get them to open. Hold on a moment. I can't seem to get them open either. I did earlier today, but I wonder if it's because I'm on this website. I'll keep trying.
Okay. I like them both. They were both very different and both very creative. And how fun is that to be when you go by it and you hear the sound? That was pretty amazing.
If I remember correctly, the other artist, the sound that he used were prairie dog sounds.
At a baseball stadium, essentially. Nothing yet, Dina?
Can't seem to get this to work now. I wonder if it's because we're online or.
Yeah, I couldn't get it to work. Was anybody else able to listen to the blue and yellow sounds?
No, none of them work for me.
Yeah, me either.
Wow, we're just having lots of technical problems tonight.
Well, were there any thoughts? Then the other one is the baseball player.
Mhm.
And I will have to admit, when I saw the baseball player and listened to the Prairie Dogs at the baseball stadium, I had to laugh.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, I wasn't quite sure on this one. Why did it have a circle with a circle around the prairie dog, and how is he going to accomplish that?
Yeah, I gotta say, I didn't understand the actual physical prairie dog.
And I thought we kind of wanted a sports theme or something. Wasn't that somewhere in the?
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yeah, so this one is very interesting. But I think we wanted something that appeals more to kids, something more fun. I don't think they want to have to learn if they're at the.
Well, and we talked about sports theme or something like that because it was or will be in Community Park on the Pathway.
Yeah, I would prefer something a little more playful.
Whimsical, yes, playful, fun.
Yeah, that's kind of what our RFP said.
Yes. Are you still looking, Dina? Is that what we're looking at
Yeah,
here?
I just thought maybe if there was something on his portfolio we could look at.
Oh, okay.
But unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I couldn't quite get what he was trying to get at with the music on this one.
Let's move on to the rendering.
Let's go to the baseball.
There you go.
I was impressed with the way that this guy presented.
Yeah, if we don't get the prairie dogs here, then we'll know it's because we're online.
Right.
Sorry, this was a plain sound file. I wonder if we just can't hear sound when we're logged into Zoom. Because I listened to this several times.
Yeah.
Does anyone hear anything?
No,
No.
I don't hear anything. Could you post the link in the chat and then maybe we could listen to it on
Yeah,
our own
let's see.
computers?
Yeah, let me try.
Well, I mean, I know that with his link, I went into it and in fact, I went in again and showed it to Mike because it was the baseball prairie dog, literally with the prairie dogs in the stadium. And it was very cute, I mean, I laughed when I heard it, like, oh my gosh, prairie dogs at a baseball game. How fun is that?
I can play it over a different
Okay.
computer. Do you want me to play it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, here, one sec. This is a lot of tech here.
And then it kind of fades off with one little lone prairie dog at the end. So. All right, someone like to make a motion on which one of these artists they would like to choose for the pop-up prairie dog number 12.
I'd like
Anybody
to
wanna
make, I'd like to make a motion to vote on the second Nathan Hall's baseball themed with prairie dog sounds, prairie dog.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, Dina, you do roll call?
Oh, wait a minute. Christina is not on here, so we got to make sure that that gets included in the
Yeah.
minutes.
Who was the second?
She's doing bedtime. She'll be right back. She said
She
she
likes-
voted for the other one, but needs to be on.
Right,
Is that
she voted for Ben Coleman.
Who did the second?
Terry.
Terry.
Yeah, sorry.
Right, so we'll start with Jill,
Yes to Ben. Sorry, Nathan. Sorry.
David,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Jill. We lost
Hello?
you.
Hi.
There you are.
I can't hear you. Are you asking me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes. Melinda.
and Melinda.
Yes.
So that was 7 yeses.
Right, 7 yeses. All right, motion is passed, so we'll reach out to Ben Coleman for Prairie Dog number 12 that's going in at Community Park along the pathway. Okay, item 60, and this one we have already discussed. The next two actually we've already discussed. And Dina, can you keep an eye out if someone does have public comments on these? So item 60 is the creative placemaking small projects funding. On Tuesday, there were a group of us that went through 14 different proposals, basically. And we narrowed those 14 down to 5. And the 5 that we chose, do you have the list? Wait, I have them right here. The 5 that we chose were Evan Colbert, who was painting the bollards, Gregory Fields, which was the peacock that was out of Mosaics, Mitch Levin, which was the angel heart with the brass shovels, Dara McCool, which was the school project with the stars, and Etika Pacha, who was the mural. Those are the 5 that we agreed upon at our subcommittee meeting. There were also 3 that we would kind of like to keep in mind that we liked a lot, but didn't feel they would work particularly well in the winter, you know, going into the winter season. So we'll kind of keep those under our artist registry or creatives registry. So is there a motion to approve the 5 creative placemaking small projects funding?
So moved.
I second. Okay. Any other discussion on the 5 funding projects? Okay, Dina, you want to call roll for those? They were amazing, by the way. I was incredibly impressed with the response that we got and the choices that we have, both for these and the bus shelter wraps. There's a lot of very creative proposals.
Any other discussion? Are you ready for roll call?
I think so.
All right, David,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Melinda,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Jill.
Yes.
That is 7 yeses.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Christina's still gone, so.
But motion still passes with seven yeses. Okay, we'll reach out to those small project artists and let them know that we'd like to go ahead with this. All right, item 6E on the agenda under master plan goal number 2, public art, were the bus shelter public art RFQs. And again, there was a subcommittee that spent probably, again, about an hour and a half or whatever, going through the 9 artists that had sent us proposals. We narrowed it down to the 4 bus shelters. Again, amazing art, and we had a really hard time deciding the 4 that we chose. And, or the 4 applicants that we chose to recommend to you. So Dina, I don't have a list of the 4 bus shelters that were recommended. Do you have those?
Yeah, I
The
have
4
it
artists?
right here.
Okay,
I've got the names. Bates, Casper, Cruz, and Maxey.
and Dina, are you pulling them up?
Yeah, they're,
Okay,
I think I'm sharing here. Do you guys see my folder?
I do see the folder, but no
Yeah, I
art yet.
just have their names.
Okay, oh, okay.
Did you, I'm happy to open each one. Did you want to do that?
What are,
Well-
what are we voting on or not voting on?
We are voting on the 4 recommended bus shelter artists that the subcommittee agreed on. These are the 4 choices that we voted on to approve and recommend on to the CAPS committee as a whole.
And to the goal is to invite them to design bus shelter artworks and to have them bring their designs back to the November meeting for review.
And we're picking one,
No, not
4.
necessarily.
picking
4.
4. So, okay. So they're all gonna, we're all, I wonder, should we have more than 4 if we don't like what they come back with?
Do you want me to take that?
Sure.
When we did the original 6 bus shelters, there were a couple proposals that came back that committee was not particularly wild about. And so then we reached out and asked one of the artists that the bus shelter subcommittee really liked. So that is why in the 6 existing bus shelter wraps, we have duplicate artists, was that exact reason. So these 4 artists that we chose and recommended to send us a proposal, basically, which we'll vote on at the November meeting. If there is an issue, then we can take it to the next step.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Is there a motion to approve the 4 bus shelter wrap artists to take it to the next step for proposals? I so move. Okay. Okay, who made the motion to?
Terry.
Okay. Okay, did you get that, Dina? Terry moved to request the 4 artists, and I don't remember their names, to present proposals for bus shelter reps to be voted on at the November meeting. And who seconded?
I will.
second.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
Who's the I will?
Melinda.
Okay. God, we all sound alike on this.
okay, Dina, will you call for roll call for the motion for the bus shelter 4 artists that will present proposals for November meeting?
Kate,
Yes.
Melinda? Terry,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
I think that's everyone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7.
Okay, so motion passed to request the 4 approved artists to submit their designs for the 4 bus shelter art wraps. Okay, Dina, have we seen anything for public comment yet?
No, as I mentioned, there's somebody on as attendee with the last numbers 2333, but I don't know who that is. So I assume that's a public attendee and they can raise their hand if they would like to comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 6F on the agenda is under the master plan goal 2, the marketplace artwork coal carts by Chris Weed. Dina, you just want to kind of fill in real quick on that so we can then take a vote?
Sure. This is old business because it's been on the agenda for almost every agenda item since the beginning of the year. But because the agreement for Target is really taking quite a long time, it's actually been in process since at least March. And we still have no idea if Target is even amenable to the idea of moving the sunflowers to their property. So we decided to ask Chris last month to give us an estimate to just do the coal carts. We were trying to combine the 2 projects so that we could take advantage of him being in Superior and doing work in Superior and doing 2 projects. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. So he gave me an estimate to move the coal carts, and after his review and site visit, he's recommending that we also refinish them. You may remember that they're 20 years old. I hadn't anticipated with the budget that we allotted for this year that the coal carts would have to be refinished. I did anticipate that the sunflowers would have to be refinished. So he does say there's quite a bit of rust, and the texture that's supposed to be on the coal carts is 20 years old. So while they're stainless steel and meant to last nearly forever, they're 20 years old. So they do, at his recommendation, need to be refinished. So he's given us an estimate for $8,500 to remove the coal carts, take them back to his studio in Colorado Springs, refinish them, remove all the rust, and then he would deinstall this track here that's under them and install the concrete footer that needs to be installed for the track. As you can see, there's a foundation underneath. So he would do that here in the intersection of Sycamore and Marshall. And our budget for the year for that project for both sculptures was $9,000. So interestingly enough, it comes at least under that budget amount. But next year we would need to consider budgeting to refinish the sunflowers. And as the master plan recommended, discuss and evaluate moving the sunflowers to the Target site after Target finishes reviewing the agreement for the move.
Any discussion on this?
So
My
excited
only-
about this. I just love them, and I'm so glad we're going to move it to an area with such high traffic,
Mhm.
and that we can have them redone to their original splendor. I love the modern twist on the history. I'm so excited about it. I just love these.
And if you've looked at them lately, what a difference than what they look like, whatever it was 20 years ago when they were installed by what's his company, Wild Oats, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they look so stunning right here. And when you look at them now, they're like, oh, those poor little coal carts. So, yes. Big
But yeah,
difference.
I think it makes sense while you're moving them to restore them.
Yes.
I
Okay,
think
do we have a-
cost-wise, it seems like it makes sense too. I mean, all that work and taking it down to Colorado Springs and back and everything, like,
Mhm.
I mean, just to move a piano is $1,000, you know?
I know, I found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
So any other discussion on the coal carts doing the restoration and moving them to that corner by Panera? We already voted on the corner, but any other discussion on that? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the restoration of the coal carts? And the
I'll make
moving
a
forward?
move I'll make a move for the restoration of the coal carts.
Okay, I second. Any further discussion?
I have a comment, please.
Yes.
First, the motion only includes the restoration. Do you
Oh,
want
does it? Okay.
to include the move?
But doesn't include the movement.
I thought we'd already
Restoration
done
will just
that.
be refinishing them.
Dina, I can't hear you. I don't know if it's your microphone.
Well, it's probably
There we
me.
go.
I need to get the headphones that you have.
My
Yeah.
gosh, no, there, I can't bring
So
anything.
wait, so what does the motion need to include? The
It
rest?
should say restoration and move.
Oh, the rest. Okay, so I make a motion for the restoration and replacement of the coal
Mhm.
carts.
And I seconded. Okay. Any other discussion about it? Dina, are we good on this? From a motion perspective?
We're good.
Okay. You want to call roll call then for Melinda's motion?
Sure. David,
Yes.
Melinda,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Debbie.
Yes.
So that is 7 yeses.
Okay, motion pass. All right, item 6G. And this is for the master plan, public art for the Colton Community Center. And just as a prelim on this, Jill and Dina have gone through an amazing amount of work and presentation and research on some thoughts for the Colton Community Center before the end of the year. So we have the PowerPoint presentation that Jill's going to go through, along with budget items that when they're, when they're being presented, look at them and think about, okay, this one is $500. This one might be $2,000. Because as you recall, we did vote to approve the art display walls in the hooks. So we have already approved that amount. But then we have some of the extra budget. I know that Dina's been in discussions with Leslie on this. And so as they're being presented, kind of keep in mind what you think might be a priority and what you would like to see. That one we already voted on. And then you can think about it, look at all the different options. And at the November meeting, we will present, things for us to vote on, which will then go to the Board of Trustees on December 14th. So December 14th, we have 2 presentations to the Board of Trustees. One of them will be the Ormond Rose Trailhead options and our recommendation. And the second presentation for the Board of Trustees, December 14th, will be our thoughts, artists, thoughts and possible art in the Colton Center and how much that's going to cost. So kind of keep that in mind as you're going through this. Okay, Jill.
Okay, so we, just to recap, we have 20,000 each year. And in a perfect world, we would have 40 to spend when the building actually opens and we can walk through it. That is not the case. So we are, we've gone over all of these ideas. So I'm trying to get kind of everybody on the same page of what we purchased this year, 2020, and what we want next year. And then maybe everything after 2021. We don't have to go into a 5-year plan, but maybe just this year and next year for sure. So just to recap, we did go ahead and approve at the last meeting to go ahead and spend up to $5,000 on exhibit gear, so that when we have exhibitions and community projects, that we've got all of that already sourced and purchased and it's hit the books. The other things, and I kind of, Dina found all of the estimates for these, thank you, Dina. But I've also kind of already put some thought into what we could spend this year. Again, without a wall to paint or, all of that stuff, it's sort of tough to actually buy stuff that we'll just store. So the history and the making snapshots is next. So we've talked about all of those photos getting made into a wallpaper. Unfortunately, these nooks are no longer a part of the plan, but we would still have wallpaper to work with. There's another way you could do kind of an Instagram display here, and then these large format photo strips. The photo strips are about $40 each. The wallpaper, I think it's like $300 for a 100-foot roll. So those to me are no-brainers. We've got the photos, we've got they're pictures of the community, and we can display them in kind of cool ways. So that to me is kind of a no-brainer. And it's really only probably $1,000 out of our budget all in. So then the next kind of big thing that we've gone back and forth about is in the rendering, they had a mural and then a lit Superior sign. So we've been kind of working with that. A mural, if we did something on this wall, would be about $2,000. If we did a living wall, it gets a little complicated. So we're looking at like $10,000 to $20,000 depending on how large you want to go. So we could do part of the wall, like an 8-foot by 10-foot section. The problem with the living, not a problem, the criteria for the living wall we loved that it would create oxygen, it would be actual plants. It would also mitigate some sound and absorb some of that. When building the wall for this, you need to have water, electricity, lights, and like a drainage system, which can all be built after the fact, but since we are still in construction phase, we could do all of this beforehand. The kicker part is, because this is a living wall, there's sort of some maintenance that goes into it. And so one quoted me around $600 a month to kind of maintain it. And so that's $7,200 a year. So that's, I don't know if the building has budget for that. So that might be a problem. So the option 2 for that is you get artificial plants. They look like plants, but they're artificial. Kind of cool. I don't know, I don't like that. So then the third option would be moss. So if you get moss, you don't need to water it, but in Colorado it gets dry, so it gets brittle, and it's not going to disintegrate per se, but if some kid comes up and sticks their hand on the wall, you'll have a handprint. So you can hire a company to kind of come out every 6 months or every year and kind of touch up. Let's see. Let me show you just an example so you get an idea. I don't know how to switch.
A quick, Jill, Leslie just commented that there will be one nook.
Oh, okay, perfect. Then the wallpaper, that would be great for the wallpaper.
In this, yeah, we're not quite sure where, but Leslie said there will be one nook.
Okay, so this, just to give you an idea of the moss, is something you could do. Again, there's no maintenance. Once it's up there, it's up there. It's not necessarily producing oxygen, but it's cool. But people would absolutely touch it, I think. And then you would have the town of this town of Superior logo there.
The nice thing about that is it would help with a dampening effect from the noise.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I really like about it, although we're losing sort of the sound and the oxygen factor, is the nature part, which really the Land Rover building was trying to get.
Yeah.
And I like the mural aspect. I just don't like that we're gonna have so many murals, I feel like. Okay, so depending on what we choose, you can also get a sign incorporated into those, which I think would be really cool. And the architects kind of mentioned that too. So if we do a neon sign, and I have all these prices, but I'm just going to shoot them out for you, it would be more like $5K. And then if you did like an LED sign, whether it's the logo, the Superior logo, and it's just the circle, or whether it's, you know, text, whatever their text is of their brand, Town of Superior, and LED, be about $2 to $4K. So the thing with the living wall, again, it's tough. We're trying to get the money to be spent this year, but they do require, when you kind of, after you've decided on the project, they require a 50% deposit. So we could spend half of the money this year, pay for the sign to get made this year, and then we'd have a little bit left over for next year. So that is that option. Takes a little bit more finesse, I think. So then there's these backlit walls, so no mural, no sign, but you do have these sort of lit bright wall panels that run 3K each. So depending on how many we wanted, and then you can rotate what art's in front of that. Not so much, in my opinion, not so much of a wow factor, but definitely has light and draws your eye to that, which is another option for that. So based on that is kind of what I'm thinking we can plan for this year. And then next year, we all know we want the big south wall mural, 17,000. It's going to be, you know, potentially. So that's most of the budget. So the next year isn't that exciting because most of it's going to this mural. So then let me just kind of go through the other projects and you guys can tell me if you think they need to have priority or we might want to try to squeeze them in. But we've got the bulkhead wall, some texture or just some, large canvas prints that we could go up there. Initially, we decided that because this was going to be painted green anyway, that we would just come back to that and that'd be in the future. We
And
also
just
are
real
gonna-
quick, that bulkhead wall, Leslie, if I'm not mistaken, I think there will not be that window anymore. Is that right, Leslie? Unfortunately, we don't have new renderings because this 3D rendering is pretty expensive. So a lot of the design changes have just happened through, kind of construction changes.
You're correct. That bulkhead will just be a solid wall. There is no glass.
That's too bad.
That is a bummer. That is a large wall. Okay. Okay, so there's that. So we've got the dowels that are going to be there and we don't have to pay anything unless we want to modify them. And we had talked about doing a community project where people paint them and then we hang them. And then a commissioned artist to paint the bottom of them so that when you walk underneath them, you get kind of a whole new experience. Because we're so late into the year and because our budgets are limited, I'm inclined to just let them be as is, but revisit them in future years because we're already getting them and we've got a whole bunch of other projects to do. And
Well,
then,
and a quick note as well, I'm sorry to interrupt. The dowels are not part of the construction project. So the rendering includes them, but only the metal black mesh is included.
Oh.
okay, so maybe we do want them.
And how
But
much do
what
you
we could-
remember?
I believe the dowels will be about $500 to $700 to just purchase the dowels. And that's just based off of I went to Home Depot to see how much dowels are. I don't know what the diameter of these are, but just kind of an educated guess. We could certainly buy the dowels
Yeah.
and get the specs from the architect.
Okay, so that I feel like we can do that easily this year too. Okay, so then we've got, let the dowels stay there for a couple of years, then come in with some really cool other hanging art, which I love too. I just don't think it needs to happen in the first 2 years. I love these pictures that you found, Dina, of vinyls for the art trail, which is Superior is so known for is their trails. And so leading people into the different spaces. I love it.
Yeah.
We just don't have the budget for it unless we take it from somewhere else. But Dina's thinking that's going to be $6,000 to $9,000 and it's vinyl. So might need some maintenance, but also doesn't have to stay there forever, which I love those. We've got the stadium seat risers. I think $2,000 to $5,000. I think we can come back to that. Again, we just don't want it. I think we just kind of need to see how the space feels and kind of take things slow. I feel this might be a little busy, but certainly a great opportunity for them. So then we've got the youth spaces and understandably, Leslie does not want anything that needs to be sanitized between everybody touching it, which would be impossible. So I think the interactive part, we probably need to put a hold on, but it would be a bummer just to have a game room with no vibrant color. So I'm thinking a mural there. And again, that would be $2,000 to $4,000. Or this other mural is from this artist that we've seen before, something like that for the youth spaces. So in my mind, kind of next year, we could do the huge south wall because that's, if we had to pick that or the bulk wall, that's what people are going to see right away when they walk in. And I think that's more bang for our buck. But I do think that the teen and the game room needs some thought put into it. If we're the only people in charge of that, then I feel like a mural is what we could do there. And then the last thing, if we still have budget left for this year, Debbie found an artist and we could purchase some art. We could also go take a field trip to some local galleries, have a budget, and purchase some pieces, again, not knowing where they're gonna be hung, but knowing that they will add pop to the space when it opens, which would be nice. Okay, comments?
May I just say kind of next step process kind of comment?
Yep.
So the idea is to, by the November CAPS meeting, really hone in on the things that you guys would like to recommend to the board. And that would include all of these items. So from doing the wallpaper to doing the living wall, or doing, you know, all of these things that Jill has pictured here. Literally making a list just like this with the example artworks to the board and presenting the ideas and getting their, for lack of a better word, blessing, so that we can then start the art selection process in January. Meaning, if you guys decide you want to do the living wall, or maybe you want to do this in this picture here, the mural wall with the superior neon, we could September 15th start the planning after getting their blessing.
You mean December
Without-
15th?
Sorry, December 15th, the day after the board meeting. So with that being said, even though some of these things might be 5,000 here or 2,000 there, the community center is going to be such a huge impact on our community. It's thought that the board wants a real big input on the aesthetics. So we really want to get their input on the funding that's in the CAPS budget and the cultural arts budget for this building, 20,000 this year and 20 next year. So the next step is to make a list of what you want to show them in December. And perhaps it is knowing that you want to get the superior neon sign right there in this picture. Knowing that we want to do that this year, knowing that maybe you want to buy the dowels this year, you know, the A, B, and C of what you want to do with the $20,000 this year. Then in December, we can go into action and just order and purchase those things before the year end. Then also giving them a recommendation for 2021, which is also another 20,000, and literally giving them the type of art, the location for the art for 2021, getting their buy-in so that in January, we can start the art selection process. And whether if it's a living wall, we'll want to find the vendor and get the quotes for doing a living wall, or if it is the big, huge mural in the south wall, doing an artist search for the south wall. So whatever art we decide to recommend then for 2021, we need to bring back to them to review. So we will be back to them, I would guess, in February or March, and say, okay, we found an artist or company to do the living wall. Here it is. Here's an update. Here's an artist and a proposal for the big painted mural, you know, whatever it will be in 2021. So I hope that process makes sense. It's a two-step process.
Are we at all concerned that the town probably breaks for Christmas the 20th, so we have 5 days to secure contracts and purchase?
Well, all I know, the only days I have are Christmas and New Year's, so I'll be working.
Oh, okay.
I can spend $20,000 in a week.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry about that. So any comments on things that we can maybe get rid of, or things that you just want to say that you love that we want to make sure we definitely include?
So let me just I've got a few comment suggestions.
Great.
Number one, just make sure we stick with the overall theme that the architects have selected. So for example, the painted path on the floor, the art mobility path concept, I think that's really cool and it would work in a traditional community center. I don't think it's going to work with this center. I think the vibe we're going for is, you know, the downstairs of the Boulderado Hotel type of vibe. You know, it is lounge, it is old Colorado lounge, you know, it feels, you know, more Ritz-Carlton than Senior Center, right? So just think about that.
Okay.
Number two, I think it's great. I think what you guys are doing, I can't be any more happy with the progress you guys are making and the thinking you have around this, and the living wall concept is great. Dina, I don't think we take no for an answer to get in there with paint this year with a mural artist, particularly in the game room. It's cinder block. There's no reason why we can't find an artist to do a mural, even if it's not an artist, it's a painter, to bring some pop or vibe in that. I like whoever said, if it's this team who's responsible for making that space vibrant, this is the most, and to me, this is the most important space in the entire 15,000 square foot building, because what our teens are going through right now in a pandemic is just tragic. And so to get the teens in particular into a space that they think is cool, to me is so important. And so, yeah, I don't know what construction is going to be going on there, but I think if Dina and Leslie, if the three of us leaned on the construction crew and said, listen, we're going to start painting walls in that game room area on December 1st. And so get ready for us. And we'll, it's a construction site and we'll wear hard hats and do whatever, but we're bringing in our team. If they say hell no and we can't do it because it doesn't have, whatever, but I want to push hard on that because I think you're exactly right. I'll make a personal just preference there. I actually don't like detailed art on this. I actually like somehow words, and which sounds goofy. Are you all familiar with the new building, the Partners Group building that got built on Indiana, directly across from what was Level 3, which is now CenturyLink, right? That huge, beautiful brick building in Broomfield. I only see one person, so I don't see affirmative head nods. It's a beautiful building. It's called the Partners Group. They spent like 30-40 million on this building. It's all brick. It's amazing. But they painted on the side of this building an inspirational quote that looks, and you would think I would know the inspirational quote because I've driven by it 100 times and I'm forgetting, but it's something like, challenge or something. It's a word. And to me, I don't like the pink and the blues or I don't like any of the visuals here. This feels too preteen to me. So I think it's more black and white and cool and hip and urban, but you guys are the experts on this. But the point I'm trying to make, and my second point is, let's get in there, let's spend money, let's activate the space in December. And when the construction company says you're not allowed in, I think we say, we paid you a couple $1 million here. You're going to let us in so we can spend 10 grand, help us out. And third, while I like the DAO idea, another idea that's successfully been deployed in other places, and it's you guys are getting leaned on to find other sources of funds. And I don't know if it's related to the DAOs or not, but what if you could basically buy a DAO for $100 as a member of the community, and then that DAO would be engraved with your family's name or whatever you wanted it to say on it. And that way it's a fundraising activity. So we're not necessarily taking the town's funds. And I don't know if it's the DAO or it's bricks on the wall or it's the living wall or something, but I'll tell you that, my family would absolutely be buying something for a couple $100 that would have our family's name on this somehow for, some period of time, whether or not it was a brick or a rock in a living wall or something. And I know the town is leaning on you guys to find other sources of funds. And that could be a cool fundraising activity. You find, 200 families that each give $200, that's real money. So there's my 3 comments. Number 1, just watch the just always, you should all have a copy of the original architect's themes, and just don't get too kitschy. Like, that's the word that turned off the board. This is not kitschy. More Ritz-Carlton, less senior center. Number two, let's get in there and find, or particularly in the teen space, we cannot invest enough in that. And three, let's think about creative sources of funds. And I like the idea of, selling the engraved bricks. We don't have bricks here, so that doesn't work, but I think y'all get the analogy. And if the dowel is the brick, I don't know, that might be too cheap, but something where somebody has their name or their family's name or whatever they want engraved. Anyway, thanks for listening. But this is fantastic.
Can I clarify? So somebody who would buy like a brick or whatever, so that would be money that would be donated towards CAPS projects for the Colton building?
I think so.
Yeah, is that, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, what you guys heard from the board was, great, you got 150 grand for next year, but, find some other funding, go figure out how to write grants. That there's just grant money for the arts is just not, it's not like it's out there just waiting to be taken. Alex is the master at getting, grants for roads because, we need roads. There's a subset of the population that doesn't think we need art. It's hard to find money for art. So you guys it's going to be a priority for next year for you guys to find other sources of money. And I think, a source of money directly from the community through the engraved brick concept is an interesting idea. There's a Boy Scout, by the way, who did this a few years ago. And he was able to raise like $4,000, like in no time, to do a little project. So I think you guys could put another zero on that thing. I think we could probably raise 40 grand on that.
Yeah, so we would probably have to keep the dowels there permanently. Would be just one. But we
I'd
could
say
hang-
you offer a certain time period.
Okay.
Like I was, as Kevin was talking, I was thinking, hey, we could do that and offer 3 years.
Right.
Okay.
Put your family's name up for 3 years. And then, they agree to it and they pay for it. And in 3 years, we decide if we keep it or we do something else.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
we can
there's no
even do,
guarantee. I mean,
yeah.
We could
Well, we can
repurpose
even
it.
do 3 years with the dowels with a $200 contribution or whatever. And then after the dowels come down in 3 years, then somewhere in the building, we have a list of, original donors to the building, whatever you
Sure.
want to. So
Yeah.
you have a list of every family that contributed to the original building.
So one thing, Kevin, and I don't know if Leslie's still on, the idea came up of branding the town of Superior in this building. To me, there's not really a concise branding going on. We've got downtown Superior with its cool font. We've got the new crazy sculptures at every end of town that are off center and lit. And then we've got the circle with the tree, which is great. And there's if we kind of go down this living wall or this main mural wall, there's an opportunity there to really brand. And we just haven't got any feedback on that. And I don't know if neon, while it's hip and cool, I don't know if it's Ritz-Carlton. So just a little feedback on that if you have any.
I think so. You're not so thank you for the comment. It annoys the crud out of me, right? When we went with downtown Superior and then across the street, we have the different font, right? It would have been great if we had a single font or brand throughout the town. But the circle with the tree, nobody loved anymore. And so we wanted to do something, and it's hard to do that, right? But you're right. We have effectively 3 different fonts right now. I would not be a huge fan of a 4th font.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we could find something. I don't know if anybody on the team here is kind of a branding I'm not a branding expert, but I know that we haven't quite found the brand, right? I mean, all you'd have to do is see the G in Google without the rest of the word, and we would all know what the other 5 letters are, right? Because it is, and will never be as good as Google. They probably spent $2 million on the brand, but we could do better.
couple thoughts I had on that. So Kevin, one of the things we've looked at, Dina, can you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the PowerPoint presentation, or does Jill have it? Okay, so we have been.
Good. Good. You
these-
guys are looking at this. Good.
Right,
You
no,
should
I
all-
mean,
Right. Perfect.
right, we are paying attention to that and we're following those guidelines. I did pull up, and I apologize, I don't know what I did to it, but I think that one of the things that we need to think about for the Colton building is following what the public comment was last January. I mean, they had those meetings that were fabulous, that what people wanted to see in that building. Kevin, referenced the teen area. So we know, for instance, in the teen area, we have seen some amazing artists and mural artists that could do even like Kevin's thought of words, or relatively inexpensive. I'm actually kind of surprised at how inexpensive you could do a mural wall in the teen room. We actually found a mural artist that did letters, for instance, which is kind of interesting. But I think that we need to not only follow these design drivers that the architect put for us to follow, but I think we need to kind of think about the purpose of the building. It's not, in my opinion, and from the feedback that I wish that I could have pulled up, it's not like a rec center. It's really a community gathering center. And when we're looking at all this, how do we make this a space that meets whatever those guidelines were that the community gave their input on? And I know that I vividly remember a group of parents talking about it as, how important it was for teens, preteens to have a place to meet safely after school. Where do you have seniors? Where do you have, different HOAs and community groups meet? So I think that goes back to Jill's thought of how we look at it from branding, what is the purpose of the building, and how we're going to incorporate all these design and art elements into it so that it just has an overall feel to it. So yes, we are paying attention to that, again, with that price point. So Kevin, if you have any other ideas on that,
Let me chime in, because I was, the notes I was taking during Jill's presentations followed a little bit of what Kevin was saying. So so I love the idea of the living wall because it's not branding, right? So that kind of is the softer textural palette when you walk in.
Yeah, the milk, and don't be like, plagiarizing is a great form of flattery. I mean, I don't want to, somebody's going to say, oh, you stole that from the milk market. Great. We stole it from the milk market. That shit's cool.
Oh yeah. I think we've always loved the living wall, but I was always afraid of the neon mural where it says the town of Superior, because then we're going to have the mural, and then we're going to have all of these different pieces. And so it was starting to feel a little schizophrenic to me. So I really love the idea of the living wall and it being kind of a softer base when you walk in, because as soon as you turn the corner, you're going to see the mural. And then, like Kevin said, I feel like a priority is the teen room. I was thinking more of kind of like graffiti,
Yeah. Who's sharing the content now?
Who's what?
Who's sharing
I think
the screen?
Dina
right now?
is. I think
Dina, will you
Dina
stop
is.
sharing for a minute so I could share something real quick?
Yep, I am.
Sharing. And I think because if you have like I loved that texture piece that you put in, Jill, like for there it is.
That's
Really
very cool.
Yeah, so this is the building. You guys got to see the building. It's awesome and it's goofy, right? But okay, it's realizing potential in private markets. Okay, these guys are capitalists, but it's that type of. I mean, this is a brand new building, but there's something about like the vibe of this building and the way it's, the paint is faded and it's cockeyed and, there's windows missing. There's something about that just spoke to me and I think is sort of cool. And I just want to be careful if you guys are the architects of the teen room, and I call it the teen room, it's a game room, that it's not to it doesn't look like the doctor's office and the pediatrician, because that's, there was something on that wall. Oh, there was some picture that reminded me of that.
Okay.
But I think what you're saying is that that room is going to have a specific mood, right? So it's not
Right.
going to be like, so the whole community center is not kitschy, where every time you turn the corner, you're like, oh my God, right? So
Right.
that's why I love, like, the teen room would have like this graffiti vibe. But when you first walk in, and Jill was showing all of those pictures of the living wall and then the textural component on the header wall, those are all kind of soft and, like you said, more of the Ritz-Carlton.
Right.
That when you have the mural on the other side, and then you have the words or the graffiti, whatever word we want to use for the teen room, when you walk in those rooms, it's an experience,
Right. Exactly.
So those are and then my other thought was I like the idea of that art trail for our art path, not for the community center.
Yeah.
And I really love just maybe this year funding that metal grid, because I think that's going to be an important piece of infrastructure for the Dowells, which is the community component. And I love the buy-in from families. But then when we take it down, then we can hang something like really cool. And then I
Well,
also
the metal comes along with the building.
Yeah,
So
the mesh
metal
comes with it.
oh,
mesh
cool.
is
Okay, let's
funded.
take that out of our
It's just
budget.
no, it's from the architecture budget.
Oh, okay.
So we
The
had talked
construction
about
budget.
we had talked about making sure there's enough lighting there. Is that something we need to add, or is that included too?
We're dropping in some skylights there. We could afford the skylights, fortunately. So I think it should be a lot better, but the architects, the lighting and the sound, you guys should not have to worry about the lighting and the sound. I mean, I like the idea of the living wall of the moss, because I do think it will dampen. I think sound's going to be a bit of an issue there. I mean, I'll tell you, I plan on working there every day. Like, this will be my office. Like, I'm going to go and have a cup of coffee, and I will be there 3 or 4 hours a day. And I suspect, and hopefully there will be, 40 or 50 people just like me, at least, and to make it vibrant. And if it's, if I could hear I'm going to assume there's a pool table in the back. If I hear every time a cue ball hits another ball, I'm not going to be able to work there. It's going to make me nuts.
So it sounds,
I was just going to show you one of the companies I reached out to. I said what our budget was, and she showed me these. So these are other options where you don't have a brand. If we don't want a brand.
I'm not afraid. I wouldn't necessarily worry about the brand, but I think it's going to be, I think you're onto something, Jill. And I love I'll be careful my words. I love the fact we're trying to accelerate the investments. And the living wall is just going to be I think that should be a priority for the year. What can you do to accelerate the investment? And the living wall, it sounds like, I don't know. It just, everything I've ever invested in that has water, it somehow breaks, or it's expensive, or it's a pain in the ass. Like the moss concept to me feels good if it uses less water.
Uses no water.
Or no water. Right. So the moss concept to me sounded great. But this is not my committee, but I worry about, you said a lot of things like, okay, it needs dirt and drainage and light and, that just seems like a lot.
So you had asked for like things that we love. The moss wall, I love that. It doesn't seem like it would be so much effort to maintain, but it's still living, and it brings in a lot of like calming, and it's not too busy, but it's still different than like mural. I think it would fit the space. I like the teen room, having it feeling like its own space, right? It's a special place for teens, it's their area they can go to. What the personality looks like there, I think we can play with that, but having it be set apart. And then I really like those like kind of boards that went down the lines of the portraits. I don't know, not the connected one, but the one where they kind of like hang underneath each other. those are the things that stood out.
The big grid? Like
No, it's not the wallpaper. It was like you said there were ones that were like $40 that were like a strip, but then
Oh, the
behind
photo.
that there was a picture of like that. I like those a lot. Those are cool.
Yeah, and those, those lend an opportunity for the community or the teens even, like that could be in the teen room, like, hey, teens, take a picture of nature in Superior or whatever the theme is, #Superior, and then we print them all.
Yeah, and getting buy-in from that group, I think would be really awesome.
Yeah. And maybe
sounds-
they buy that frame and they get their name put on a plaque and their parents don't.
Well, it sounds like, Jill, well, we definitely are starting to coalesce around specific things we like. And so it sounds like we have these spaces that we need to think about and design. We have top priorities for each of these spaces, whether it's the mosque quiet wall, the teen room apart, the portraits or the teen pictures, all those types of things. So in the effort to, get it so we're not here till midnight, how about if we just schedule a meeting for whomever would like to sit down with Jill, and we'll get all these ideas organized even in a better way for the November meeting. Does that sound like a good plan?
I'd love to get Leslie or someone involved to see how quickly we can get in and do things this year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I
We
think
need to get
why don't
in.
you let Dina, Leslie, and I take that one offline. And let's make sure that's reflected in the notes. That
what do you mean,
guys-
Kevin?
That to take that offline to go push on the contractor. By the way, that contractor lives in Superior and he has teenagers. So, he'd probably be a pretty good candidate for the Dow purchase or whatever we're going to sell. But yeah, I think let's have the three of us lean on the contractor to say, we want to be in that space. Even if they can clear out the space for 5 days so we could paint something on the wall. And by we, I mean an artist. You don't want me. I think is good. So
Okay.
let's push on that.
So
So
if
Dina,
it's-
I'm giving, I know there's a committee meeting, but I'm sort of, I'm hearing the committee request that we use our influence to see what we could do.
Well, we need to get into the building. We need to meet again to talk about, after that, we need to talk about the space and what types of, whatever it is, the top 3 priorities for each space within that budget. So,
Right. And then
let's,
Dina, if you have I know Dina's got a nice portfolio of mural artists.
we've looked at some amazing stuff, Kevin, literally.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to take 1 or 2 and even bring 1 or 2 for a 15-minute presentation at the Superior Youth Leadership Council meeting.
Oh,
And,
that's a good
got-
idea.
guys, what resonates with you? We're building this space for you. What resonates? And they're also going to be out drinking their, how do you say it? Kombucha? They'll be drinking their coffees outside, but hopefully they're also in that room that is more designed for them.
Yeah, that's a good
So-
idea, taking it so I can get their suggestions. Okay.
Right.
I kind of
all right,
like
well-
Kate's input on this. Kate,
Yeah, good idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
what's
Who's closest to a
what's
teen?
your opinion?
No, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Trying to sort of keep it a little bit separate in terms of the vibes that are in it from everything else. So it feels like it still feels like it's part of everything, but it also feels like it's sort of a, an escape from everything, and it's a little bit separate from everything. And I'm totally down to talk to you guys more about the specifics of that. I think the words are a great idea. I wasn't too sure in the presentation, the example of the words, the mural there that was given. I'm not sure how teens would react to that one, but
The one that looks like a murder ransom note.
yeah. Wasn't a huge fan of that one, but I do like the idea of incorporating that and making it feel like it is a little different from everything else. And I think that would encourage the teens to
Right.
kind of hang out there.
Yeah,
more,
we
you
just
know?
finding those words are right. That's the challenge, right? Because we all remember the, that goofy poster from the 80s. Kate won't remember, but we remember the poster from the 80s with the hang in there baby with the cat that was like
That
hanging.
came to mind.
Right. We got it. Like, we cannot do that or they'll
Right.
just make fun of us. We have to do something cool.
So Kate, I would love to see kind of your ideas. If you could go to Pinterest or go to different areas and kind of see what you thought was cool,
Yeah.
I would love to see your opinions on that.
It's really going to take furniture, and I mean, I really hope that somebody helps them, but we can only do one kind of aspect of it, but really it's got to be interior designed.
Okay, well, it sounds like we have some good directions. Jill, let's meet again. Kevin and Dina and Leslie are going to get together and we'll reach out to Slick. So that will be a good thing. So looks like those are our steps forward, basically. Any other steps that we need or I need to jot down here? Other than that, I think that we're good with that. So basically just a couple other things on the agenda. And I know Christina's not here any longer. Dina, do we need to just a 2-second update on the snapshots of Superior?
The only update, just real fast, is the subcommittee met, and I think we'll have a lot more information to share in November. We'll have more actions done. We kind of made a to-do list, so I bet we could email you guys the to-do list just to keep you up to date. And actually, we haven't taken notes yet from that meeting, only because it wasn't a 3 or more CAPS members, so it was just 2 people and me. So
Okay.
we weren't planning to do official notes, but certainly we could just send out a quick to-do list so everybody knows.
We're going to make 3 projects with it, with the photos.
And hopefully somehow or another incorporate him to Colton too, so. Okay, item, the master plan art path. I don't think we have quite enough time, Dina. Rachel has done some really amazing stuff, and Rachel and Christina and a couple of the ProStack and OSAC, we have biked or walked different areas of Superior. I know that that's been a huge priority from the last night's meeting with ProStack, is looking at the paths and where would be the appropriate art path. Rachel has put together that we're going to be using for the meeting a week from tonight. We are meeting with ProStack, OSAC, Historical Commission, and obviously CAPS to come up with some brainstorming on the art mobility path. And given that we're kind of short on time, Rachel, is there any good way to, I mean, we took Mitchell's master plan. You want to take?
Yeah,
just 2
I can
minutes
do,
to
if
tell
you
them?
give me 2 minutes, I can give you
Okay.
what we did just so people know that it exists, play with it. It's very cool, I think. So I'm going to share my screen if you
Okay.
don't mind. Really
And
quick.
while she's pulling that up,
Can you see anything?
not yet.
You can't.
So while
see?
she's putting that up, you see the look aheads, which we don't really need to talk about. But there's one other item for the look ahead that Rachel has also done in an amazing way, just that we need to pay attention to. In order to apply for all these different grants, like Kevin had been promoting, one of the big grants for cultural arts is the SCFD, which is the Scientific Cultural, I don't know what FD is for, but they have very specific guidelines. And one of those is the entity had to be in place for, I think it's 2 years. We also need to track our volunteer hours so that we can have documentation of the hours that we're putting into CAPS. And we are going to meet with the person from SCFD late in the year so that they can give us some guidelines on how to apply for these different grants. But in that vein, Rachel has put together a spreadsheet. We don't want this to be overwhelming. I have seen this done like with Rotary groups and foundations also, where ballpark idea, like Tuesday night, we probably had at least, there were 5 of us in 2 hours. So that's 10 hours of volunteer work. Last night, we probably had another 10 hours of volunteer work. Rachel's put together these maps and stuff. So we want to start tracking those hours on a spreadsheet in an easy way for you, only so that we can justify volunteer work to apply for grants. Any other things you?
Sorry.
Yeah, we're good with that, Rachel?
Can you
Anything
see my
else?
screen?
Yes.
You can. Okay, so this, Christina and I attempted to bike around Superior and see how far we could get and what connects and what doesn't. So in doing that, I looked at Mitchell's kind of, do you guys remember this image he had? So I was like, oh, okay, we want to bike through this, but what are these things? Where are these streets? Like, what is he marking? So what I did is I created a map, and you can see I plotted what maybe he was looking at, things that are, you know, obvious, like Founders Park or whatever. So we kind of went through and like, can we actually bike from Founders Park to the trailhead entrance or whatever? So in doing that, some kind of more obvious places became apparent. This is the circle, because we had talked about possibly doing, I can zoom in, doing like a loop or something, because then people would end up back at their cars, or even like smaller lines or, you know, whatever. So this was kind of something I created based off of what Mitchell had shared with us from the master plan. And we were thinking about different possible areas. So I will share this map with all of you. This was something I kind of made for me, and then it sort of grew and has a life of its own. But you can see where I added like different, you know, Autry Park or whatever. So I put in the landmarks, and then I put in the possible bike paths. So you can see as you zoom out, this kind of looks like this, but on a map. And then you can click these areas and you're like, oh, it's Purple Park or whatever. So then I was like, well, okay, but where is the art that we already have, right? That's helpful to know where it is. So I went in and was like, well, what's the current art in Superior? So if you click this layer, and you can play with this map on your own, you click all of these, and then, oh, look, there's the prairie dog, and then it has some information on them. So it's kind of interactive. But it was hard to figure out without something like this, kind of like, where is the new bridge going? Or like, what do we already have down there? And a lot of it does actually overlap. But from our bike ride, we tracked it using Strava. I don't know if anyone's ever used it. But I just like, it's a map on your phone and it tracks where you go. But we were able to see kind of places where we got trapped or stuck, or the sidewalk stopped or whatever. So this is something that people could do. It's like free, you put it on your phone, and then you can look at a map of where you actually went later. But you can zoom in really, really closely here and see where you went. And then we could take this off. So this is community art in Superior. So things like, oh my gosh, this is mostly down here. Things like this utility box, or, you know, houses that people have painted. So that's its own layer. Places for potential art, I marked like, oh, we're gonna put maybe an underpass at some point, or, you know, this is a potential mural site underneath the bridge. And this is what is currently there. And then I went down here, and these are our like danger pain points where we got stuck and kind of worried or scared or whatever. So you can see there's actually things we found. There is an underpass right here that a lot of people didn't even know is there, which is really cool. But guess what? There's no sidewalk right here. So if you wanted to go underneath, you'd have to walk through a parking lot if you wanted to go under McCaslin. So just like little bizarre things like that we noted. And then there's another really obvious one, like getting across Marshall Road when you come out this path is really very scary. And you can see pictures and kind of suggestions. So all of that I just put in one place. And then, yeah, I don't know. Is this helpful? Is this something people might use?
It's amazing. I can't believe
Okay.
you did all of this. Oh my
Super cool.
God.
Good.
Cool.
It is amazing when you play with it.
Well, I've done this sort of stuff before, but honestly, it was really hard for me to picture things like, we're going to have this path, and where on earth does it go? And how does that relate to, like, you know, some of this other stuff I put pictures in. This bridge, this is the picture of what we were looking at with the person we walked through. Because I couldn't picture where everything was in relation to other stuff. So I needed to see it laid out. So my hope is that, you know, the first loop that we tried to do, was fine, but we realized being right by 36 is very loud. It's a little scary coming back across Marshall that there's just connections that stop, there's sidewalks that don't go through, whatever. So this is where we ended up going. I went with Christina, the first one, and then Sarah from ProStack, something like that. The second loop. And so we tracked where we went both times, and she kind of showed us where she goes up by where she lives. And so all of that was tracked for us on my phone. And then we were able to be like, oh, look, this connects or this doesn't. So my hope is people will share with us what you do, what is cool, what might make a cool, obvious path or whatever. So use it and send it to me. I can send this to you. You won't mess it up because I'm going to share it in like view only mode. So please play with it. And I'm happy to change it or do whatever. I just want it to be helpful.
This is a great
Okay.
resource.
Cool.
Yes. Thank
Cool.
you, Rachel.
Yes.
It
This
is
the-
amazing. Play with
Okay,
it this
cool.
week and let her know before the week from Thursday when we meet with the other partners. And the spreadsheet we can talk about in November.
Mhm.
And I think we pretty much covered everything. You guys are amazing. And again, thank you for, all your time and patience. We had so much to go over tonight. And, we're balancing, speeding through, keeping on task, but yet allowing everybody to have a voice. So not super easy from, sitting in this position, but thank you again. And Jill, you'll set up a time to meet, and we're meeting next week with our partners for the Art Mobility Path. They're very excited, by the way, so that's pretty great. So, all right.
Debbie, thank you. You're just
Thank
an
you, everybody.
commander in chief.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Talk soon.
Bye.